Chapter 346. Enai Rupan could no longer hate Tong Ziqing for what she did. From Enai Ruopan's mouth, Yiqing Luo then found out that Xiao Jin and the others were able to rush over to the high profound class in such a timely manner and specially prepared their red robes and masks, was all thanks to Tong Ziqing. From the moment they entered the heavenly training forest, Tong Ziqing went straight in, looking for magical beasts to accumulate points. It was Enai Rupan's first time in the training forest, so her physique was far from Tong Ziqing's. She could not keep up with Tong Ziqing's pace. He was thoroughly humiliated by Tong Ziqing. Tong Ziqing directly pushed the battered Enai Rupan to the side when they were killing the demonic beasts. She then scolded the wretched Enai Rupan for not being a hindrance since she was a good-for-nothing. Enai Ruopan's pride was insulted as he left Tong Ziqing and walked back to the entrance to wait for Yiqing Luo. Following that, under Yiqing Luo's guidance, they killed magical beasts one after another. While Tong Ziqing was accumulating points, she suddenly discovered that the points on the wooden tablet had mysteriously increased. She felt that it was strange, thinking that there was something wrong with the wooden tablet. To prevent the class leader from accusing her of cheating, Tong Ziqing specifically found Xiao Jin and explained the situation. Xiao Jin guessed that Enai Rupan killed the demonic beasts to accumulate points for her team. Tong Ziqing could not believe that Enai Rupan, who was so useless that she would gasp for breath after running a few steps, could actually kill a demonic beast. His points were still increasing at an average rate. How could this be? Hence, Tong Ziqing, Yan Xiaoyi and the others followed the location indicated by the wooden token and found Enai Ruopan, who was hugging Yiqing Luo's uniform and sprinting with all his might. After knowing that Yiqing Luo had a conflict with the high profound class students, Tong Ziqing immediately rushed over to the high profound zone. I know. Yiqing Luo couldn't help but chuckled after she heard the entire sequence of events. Her existence made Tong Ziqing feel threatened. Since Tong Ziqing had feelings for Long Yunzhan, it was only natural that she would target him previously. She knew that Tong Ziqing had wholeheartedly agreed with what she said in the class committee room. It was just that she was unable to lower her pride to ask for peace with Yiqing Luo. Such a proud and awkward little girl was quite cute. Also, Enai Rupan glanced at Yan Xiaoyi from the corner of her eye, then she lowered her voice and said, I'm afraid classmate Yan has been recognized too. What do you mean? Enai Ruopan licked her dry lips. High profound class's Yan Zhenfei is student Yan's elder sister from the same father and mother. Yan Zhenfei's innate talent has been strong since young and was admitted into Heavenly Academy at a young age. In just 1 year, she passed the semi-annual class promotion test and entered High Profound Class 2. Hearing this, Yiqing Luo roughly understood what Enai Ruopan was trying to express. These students in Devil Class were all trash in the past and Yan Xiaoyi was no exception. Her talent was not as good as her sister's, and she had been living under her sister's brilliance since she was young. Everyone could only see Yan Zhenfei but not Yan Xiaoyi. Hearing Enai Ruopan's concise and comprehensive description of Yan Xiaoyi and Yan Zhenfei's relationship, Yiqing Luo recalled that she and Yiqing Qian were once like this. However, her unexpected arrival had changed the fate of this body. But Yan Xiaoyi was different. Yiqing Luo narrowed her eyes as she stared at Yan Xiaoyi with interest. She didn't believe that Yan Xiaoyi would obediently live outside of Yan Zhenfei's halo. Based on Yan Xiaoyi's character, she would absolutely not allow herself to be at a disadvantage. Behind this halo, it was hard to say who was in charge. Chapter 347. Ever since Enai Ruopan entered Devil Class, she had been extremely cautious. To integrate into Devil Class, the first thing was to understand the students in Devil Class. She was most proud of her memory. Because of this, she had memorized the information and hobbies of the people in her class. Towards Yan Xiaoyi, she had some understanding. No worries, it's the end of the month holiday in a few days. By then, I will think of a way to dispel Yan Zhenfei's suspicions. Yan Xiaoyi waved her hand indifferently, totally not putting Yan Zhenfei in her eyes. When she first came to Devil class, her motive was to work together with Long Yunzhan, to lead the Devil class until they could contend against the High Profound class, then participate in the school's competition. Ruthlessly slapping Yan Zhenfei's face, ruthlessly stepping on the pride of the Yan family. Even if Yan Zhenfei knew in advance, so what if Yan Zhenfei recognized her? What could Yan Zhenfei do to her? Ah, that's right, it's almost the end of the month. The school will have a 3-day holiday. Bei Ming Lulu's eyes lit up. In this case, Student Yi, you can no longer participate in the training. Holiday? Yiqing Luo then recalled that it was indeed written in the booklet that the school would have a holiday on the last 3 days of every month. No matter if it was a master or a student, they had to leave the school. This was the school's tradition and rule. Yiqing Luo's eyes sunk as her slender brows creased slightly. A holiday was much more troublesome than staying in the school. In the school, she could still make use of Guiyu to cover up her injury. But if she returned to the Yi family, Yiqing Qian had borrowed the power of the dark forces and had just advanced to the Earth Profound stage. If she returned to the Yi family, she would not be able to live peacefully. Looked like, after hiding in the school for the past few days, she would have to hide for the 3 days of holiday. With Lulu treating you, by the time the holiday arrives, your body should have recovered by 70 to 80%. Xiao Jin leaned by the side as his brows rose slightly. Based on your ability, when you return to Three Springs sect, Yiqing Qian won't be able to gain any advantage from you. Bei Ming Lulu nodded. If Student Yi cooperates, she will indeed be able to recover by 70 to 80%. Looking at these people, Yiqing Luo's heart was filled with warmth. Everyone in the Devil class treats you as one of the team members and is very concerned about you. So, I hope today's incident will not happen again. Long Yunzhan, who had been silent, opened his mouth faintly. He stood by the bed, his gaze indifferent and his expression indifferent. Only that pair of rippling blue eyes gazed intently at Yiqing Luo, revealing some seriousness. Yiqing Luo met that pair of blue eyes and was slightly stunned. She suddenly recalled that day, the conversation between him and Chi-Chi, and her heart suddenly trembled. There were so many people in the pharmacy. Yiqing Luo resisted the urge to ask him about Chi-Chi's whereabouts and his relationship with Chi-Chi, nodded her head and responded yes. Today's actual combat training, you were almost discovered by the High Profound class and caused such a huge commotion. It's your fault. After you recover from your injuries, you will be responsible for the cleanliness of the Devil class for 7 days as a warning to others. Class Monitor. Xiao Jin opened his mouth, trying to plead for Yiqing Luo. Long Yunzhan casually glanced at Xiao Jin. His expressionless face and eyes were as calm as water, adding a bit of indifference to his whole person. Xiao Jin immediately fell silent. This is indeed my fault. I am willing to accept the punishment. When she did the action of going out to save that young lady, Yiqing Luo had already guessed that this action of hers had already violated the Devil class's rules. Long Yunzhan's punishment wasn't considered heavy, and it was only on the surface, to warn the other students. Long Yunzhan didn't say a word, as he remained silent as when he came, as he calmly turned around and left the pharmacy. Yiqing Luo's eyes widened as she stared at Long Yunzhan's back view. He wasn't going to tell her where Chi-Chi was? Chapter 348. That night, in order to prevent Yiqing Qian from hesitating and purposely waiting for her in the dormitory to see if she was injured, Yiqing Luo got off the bed after pulling out the silver needles. Just like what Bei Ming Lulu had said, the moment she moved, her internal organs would be affected and there would be bursts of throbbing pain. Yiqing Luo endured the pain and wore her uniform neatly. After looking at her in the mirror for a while, apart from her pale complexion, she didn't seem to be out of the ordinary. Holding the painkillers that Bei Ming Lulu had prescribed for her, she had just walked out of the Devil class when she saw Lu Xiaoyu standing at the entrance of the Devil class, waiting anxiously for her. Qing Luo. Lu Xiaoyu saw her and immediately went forward. Her eyes were filled with worry as she stared at Qing Luo from head to toe. She wanted to support Qing Luo but didn't dare to touch her. Vice Class Monitor asked you to come over? One look at Lu Xiaoyu's expression and she knew that she was specially waiting for her. Lu Xiaoyu nodded, her bright eyes were already filled with tears. He said you had suffered a serious internal injury, but you can't let the other students know, so he asked me to fetch you. Qiao Jin was considerate. Her current condition indeed made it impossible for her to return to the dormitory normally. With Lu Xiaoyu around, at least she had the strength to support herself. Qing Luo didn't say what had happened, so Lu Xiaoyu naturally wouldn't ask. Lu Xiaoyu was an intelligent girl and knew the reason why Qiao Jin specially asked her to fetch Qing Luo. She was like usual, holding Qing Luo's arm with one hand, her face revealing the same smile as usual. In fact, Lu Xiaoyu's position could support most of Qing Luo's strength. On the way back to the dormitory, Lu Xiaoyu kept on chattering about the intermediate profound class, talking about the things that the masters had taught her recently. Qing Luo occasionally responded. From Qing Luo's increasingly heavy body, Lu Xiaoyu could feel that Qing Luo's body couldn't take it anymore. Finally returning to the dormitory, she had just opened the door when she saw Lu Shuiyu sitting there asking around, her eyes staring straight at Qing Luo. Lu Xiaoyu's expression congealed as she slightly straightened her back, giving Qing Luo a strong support. Qing Luo, the instructor said that today's training will add a new exercise, let's rest early today. Lu Xiaoyu said as she held her arm and only released her when they reached Qing Luo's door. Behind him, Lu Shuiyu sneered, why does it look like student Yi is struggling to walk? Qing Luo's heart trembled fiercely. As expected, Qing Qian recognized her. When she leapt onto Shi Ju's back, half of her veil was lifted by Qing Qian's whip, allowing Qing Qian to see it. But she didn't expect that Lu Shuiyu would still be in contact with Qing Qian after the violation of the Academy's rules, and even came to test her on behalf of Qing Qian. Qing Luo chuckled lightly as she glanced sideways and sneered. If the former vice president has the time to pay attention to me, why don't you think about how to get back your position? If you lose the faculty council member status, you won't be able to see your dear president anymore. Qing Luo chuckled. With just a few words, he poked at the sore spot in Lu Shuiyu's heart. You! Lu Shuiyu slammed the table and stood up, her cold and elegant face immediately showed anger. However, Qing Luo didn't bother about her as she opened the door and walked into the room. Chapter 349. Qing Luo had just closed the room door, and that forcefully supporting body leaned against the door as she panted heavily. But when she smelled that familiar sandalwood scent in the room, she was completely stunned. She immediately raised her eyes and saw a tall figure standing in the middle of the room. He was dressed in a purple robe, and the ink was loose on his shoulders. That peerless talent, usually filled with smiles whenever he saw her, was expressionless. That pair of gleaming peach blossom eyes were sinister and treacherous, revealing a few hints of danger. This gaze made one's back go cold. Qing Luo's body suddenly tensed up. She had never seen this expression from Dmo Xian. Dmo Xian had never revealed such an expression in front of her before. Her heart trembled fiercely. Dmo Xian knew what happened to her today. Qing Luo took a deep breath, suppressing the intense beating of her heart. She had just opened her mouth to speak a word when she softened her tone. Ah Xian. Dmo Xian wasn't like usual. When he heard Qing Luo's intimate call, he beamed with joy as he went forward to embrace her into his arms. He stood on the same spot, filled with viciousness, his thin lips pulled, forming a frosty arc. Lil Luo really enjoyed herself today, so much that you can't even stand properly now? That voice seemed to be wrapped in frost, making one shudder. Qing Luo was in the wrong. She had caused herself to be seriously injured, making Dmo Xian worried. It was her fault. Seeing Dmo Xian's viciousness getting thicker, Yiqing Luo's pink lips pouted, her eyes were stained with tears. As she looked at Dmo Xian pitifully, her voice was sweet and coquettish. "Ah Xian, I'm in pain." That tone was one which Yiqing Luo had never used before. It was a little aggrieved, a little choked. "Oh? You also know pain?" Dmo Xian's obsidian-like destructive eyes was biting cold as he sneered. Yiqing Luo bit her lower lip as her eyelashes were stained with tears. "I'm in pain, so in pain. I need Ah Xian's kiss and hug to stop the pain." This method of acting coquettishly was unparalleled. Dmo Xian's face, which seemed to be sealed in ice, started to show some cracks. Yiqing Luo had been paying close attention to Dmo Xian's expression, and seeing that acting coquettishly worked, she might as well throw away her moral integrity and coquettishly said, "Ah Xian, I'm in so much pain that I don't have any energy, carry me." Dmo Xian's face was still cold, but he still walked over and hugged Yiqing Luo's waist in his arms. His movements were fast, but extremely light. Yiqing Luo almost didn't feel the pain from her body when she fell into the man's arms. That elegant sandalwood fragrance lingered around her nose, and Yiqing Luo's heart, which had been hanging in suspense, gradually calmed down. Dmo Xian carried her all the way to the bedside. Just as he was about to put her down, Yiqing Luo's slender fingers suddenly grabbed onto his robe. That uninjured arm circled around Dmo Xian's neck, encircling him. The girl's sweet and exquisite face came close to Dmo Xian's eyes. With the fragrance of a young lady, Yiqing Luo's pink lips pressed onto Dmo Xian's. Her actions were a little careful, but also a little fawning. After a peck, Yiqing Luo moved her lips away as she buried her head into the man's chest. "Ah Xian, I didn't intentionally let myself get hurt. My plan was to coordinate with Shi Ju to save that young lady without any harm at all, but I'd not expected Yiqing Luo to have broken through to Earth profound grade." Dmo Xian didn't say a word, and towards Yiqing Luo's kiss, he didn't turn passivity into initiative like in the past. It could be seen how angry he was right now. Chapter 350. After acting coquettishly, she also fawned on her. Yiqing Luo felt that she had already thrown away her moral integrity. That young lady was from the Nirvana realm's secret beast race. Saving her might allow her to form a contract with her, to open up her bloodline. If the young lady wasn't willing to form a contract with her, then she would have another beast race friend. To Yiqing Luo, there were only benefits and no disadvantages. Under such circumstances, she would naturally be fully prepared before she stepped forward to save her. Initially, when she took a liking to Shi Ju, what attracted her the most was Shi Ju's speed. If she wasn't able to save her and the situation changed, she could totally ride on Shi Ju and leave swiftly. Furthermore, she had the secret art of teleportation on her. If she sensed that something was amiss, she would be able to protect herself by displaying her teleportation. Because of this, she dared to use her own strength to go against 10 over high profound class students. But no matter how she calculated, she hadn't calculated that Yiqing Qian had broken through to Earth profound realm, nor had she calculated that Xiao Jin and the rest would rush over to help her. Escape route? This is your escape route? Dmo Xian scoffed lightly as his fingers suddenly moved and easily undid Yiqing Luo's waist seal. Yiqing Luo's petite body stiffened. His fingers parted her uniform, his fingertips faintly brushing against her skin, causing her to shudder. Yiqing Luo's breathing suddenly stopped, not understanding what Dmo Xian's actions meant. Yiqing Luo's clothes were already half opened, revealing the fair skin on her left shoulder. Dmo Xian's fingers slid down and revealed her entire arm. Her arm was wrapped with a layer of medicinal powder, but it still couldn't hide the blood scab from the whip, which was extremely conspicuous. Dmo Xian's peach blossom eyes squinted slightly as his fingers suddenly pressed on her wound. Hiss! Yiqing Luo sucked in a breath of cold air in pain as her body kept on shrinking backward. That finger which was pressing on the wound, on hearing her cries of pain, couldn't bear to loosen his strength. Immediately after, a cool feeling was emitted from Diamo Xian's fingertip. That cool feeling, after it had passed through the wound, the pain from Diamo Xian's pressure disappeared. Ah Xian! Yiqing Luo blinked her eyes guiltily as she softly called out Diamo Xian's name. I'm sorry, I know you're angry with me, I promise there won't be a next time, alright? Diamo Xian remained silent as he calmly took out a jade bottle from his netherworld dragon ring and changed her dressing. His expression was ice-cold, and his eyebrows were calm. However, his actions were extremely gentle, as though Yiqing Luo was his treasure. He held it in his mouth, afraid that it would melt, and held it in his palm, afraid that it would fall. His cautiousness made Yiqing Luo's eyes suddenly warm up as her nose turned sour. In front of others, she was confident, insolent, and arrogant. Only in front of Diamo Xian, she was like a little woman. Even if a knife was pressed against her neck, she would not show the slightest bit of fear or the feeling of wanting to cry. But this man gently helped her apply medicine, which made her so touched that she wanted to cry. Even more than that, she was filled with guilt. I know, the current me is no longer alone. Devil class's companions are very important, but you are even more important. Yiqing Luo's curly long lashes fluttered as she gazed deeply at the handsome face which was just inches away from her. I've made you worried, I'm sorry. The wound on her shoulder had been bandaged again. Bursts of cool feeling drowned out that pain. Diamo Xian's slender fingers hooked onto Yiqing Luo's clothes as he gently and slowly helped her put it on. Chapter 351. Diamo Xian's voice was filled with suppressed pain. He stretched out his hand and hugged Yiqing Luo's petite body. Light and slow, incomparably gentle. He didn't dare to use force, afraid that if he did, the person in his arms would be in pain. Slowly embracing Yiqing Luo into his arms, Diamo Xian's head, buried in her neck. The man's warm breath sprayed on her skin, like a ball of fire, burning her. Perhaps it was because his action was very light, or perhaps it was the effect of the medicine he applied. Yiqing Luo totally didn't feel any pain. Even the internal injuries suffered in her internal organs didn't cause any pain because of the slight movement of her body. I'm angry at myself, will let you get hurt. The man's voice in her neck was very low, indistinctly, a little unclear. But it wasn't hard to hear, his tone vaguely. I should protect you. Should protect you completely. His words, word by word, were like a warm current, flowing into Yiqing Luo's heart. Her brows overflowed with some tenderness, her charming eyes were filled with warmth. It's not your fault, don't blame yourself, I will feel terrible. Diamo Xian's head slowly lifted up from her neck. That pair of glistening peach blossom eyes reflected Yiqing Luo's face. Yiqing Luo's pink lips curled up, smiling like a flower. Exquisite, peerless looks, at this moment, seemed to cover up all the beauty in the world. 4 pairs of eyes met, there was only each other in their eyes. I know you care about me, and want to protect me forever. Yiqing Luo's voice was as gentle as a feather, yet filled with seriousness and determination. But ah Xian, I want to grow, want to become someone who can stand by your side, who can protect you. I'm not a woman who hides under a man's wings, relying on a man to survive. I don't want to not only be protected by you, I also want to protect you. Love was not a matter of one person, but a matter of 2 people. It was originally mutual equality. Stick to each other, protect each other. Diamo Xian was strong, but it didn't mean that she only needed to enjoy Diamo Xian's strength, to contribute for her. What she wanted to do was to stand by Diamo Xian's side, like how he protected her, to protect her. Diamo Xian wasn't willing to see her get hurt and fall into danger. Was she willing to see Diamo Xian fall into danger for her? This time, I was careless and overconfident. I admit my mistake. Yiqing Luo stretched out her uninjured hand and her fair palm caressed Diamo Xian's face. My ah Xian dotes on me, cares about me and will absolutely not stop me from growing up, right? The woman's eyes were resolute and the expression on her face was not as cold and proud as before. Instead, it was like a pool of warm water, gently wrapping around Diemo-Xian's heart. Diemo-Xian's heart was violently shaken. These words, Yiqing Luo had told him before. However, each time, he was shaken in a different way. This was the woman he fancied, the most unique woman in this world. He had always been at the top, respected and feared by tens of thousands. But only Yiqing Luo didn't care about his identity, didn't care about his power, and only treated him as an ordinary man. She would not ask for his protection, nor would she hide behind his back. She would take things as they came and enjoy a lifetime of peace. She said that she wanted to walk side by side with him, to protect him. This was the first time someone said that she wanted to protect him. And it was a woman. Diemo-Xian could deeply feel that Yiqing Luo treasured him. Chapter 352. Yiqing Luo smiled, her charming eyes curved, filled with infinite affection. The man's pale thin lips, with a trace of elegant sandalwood fragrance, lightly imprinted on her forehead. That sandalwood fragrance blurred Yiqing Luo's eyes. She only felt her eyelids heavy, and fell into a deep sleep. The next day, she was awakened by Lu Xiaoyu's knocking on the door. Opening her eyes, the room was quiet, only the sandalwood fragrance in the air proved Diemo-Xian's existence last night. Yiqing Luo blinked her sleepy eyes, propped up her arm and got up. She then realized, in shock, that she was not as unbearably painful as she had imagined. The wound on her arm had been changed and bandaged, a burst of cool feeling stopped all the pain. She raised her hand and covered her chest. The profound jade heart at her heart was emitting warmth. Her entire internal organs were enveloped by that warmth. Although her body was not as relaxed as before, but moving like a normal person, there was no problem. Yiqing Luo's eyes suddenly lit up, her face overflowing with a smile. Diemo-Xian he actually considered so thoroughly for her. Knowing that he was unable to change her decision, and unable to see her endure the pain, he used his own way to protect her. The profound jade heart injected his energy, during this period of time, was able to relieve the pain on the body. Compared to Bei Ming Lu's medicinal pills, it was much more effective. Yiqing Luo came out of the room, the corners of her mouth hung an unconcealable smile. Lu Xiaoyu lightly knocked on the door, her face trying her best to pretend to be calm. But that smear of anxiety in her eyes collided into Yiqing Luo's eyes. Seeing Yiqing Luo come out, Lu Xiaoyu heaved a sigh of relief. Without leaving a trace, she sized her up. Training is about to be late, let's go quickly. Yiqing Luo nodded lightly, raised her eyes to see Lu Shuiyu still sitting in the hall, staring at her with a gloomy face. Still not dispelled the intention to test her? No wonder Lu Xiaoyu was so worried that she couldn't wait to directly barge into Yiqing Luo's room, but was afraid that her worry would let Lu Shuiyu know that Yiqing Luo was injured, so she forcibly endured it. Let's go. Yiqing Luo directly ignored Lu Shuiyu, stretched out her arm and directly held onto Lu Xiaoyu's shoulder as they walked towards the dormitory's entrance. When the two of them walked out of the door, Lu Shuiyu suddenly stood up and chased after them. She stared maliciously at Yiqing Luo's back view, her delicate brows tightly knitted into a bundle. Lu Shuiyu had also heard about the intruders in the training forest. Yiqing Jian had specially told her that one of the intruders looked extremely similar to Yiqing Luo. If that intruder was Yiqing Luo, the current Yiqing Luo should have suffered from an extremely serious internal injury, and without 10 days to half a month's rest, it was impossible for her to move. Last night when he saw Yiqing Luo and Lu Xiaoyu returning intimately, looking at Yiqing Luo's state, it was indeed a little strange. But now, Yiqing Luo was no different from usual, which one of her looked like someone who was seriously injured. Lu Shuiyu's eyebrows furrowed, her cold and elegant face twisted into a sinister expression. She clenched her fists, gritted her teeth, and followed him out of the dormitory, walking in the direction of the freshman training ground. Indeed, as Yiqing Luo had expected, they had just reached the training ground when they saw Yiqing Jian, who was surrounded by everyone, standing at the entrance. Her usual gentle gaze was now filled with seriousness, sizing up the freshman. "See that? That's Three Springs Sec's eldest young miss, the #1 beauty in Three Springs City, Yiqing Jian. I heard that she had broken through to Earth Profound Realm during the actual combat training in High Profound class yesterday." Earth Profound? So powerful. No wonder she's a student from High Profound class. Chapter 353. Voices of discussion rose and fell in succession in the entire training ground. This other world had always believed in the rule of the strong. In the eyes of these freshmen, the High Profound class was a godlike existence. Especially when they heard that Yiqing Qian had broken through to the Earth Profound stage in the actual combat training, all the freshmen' gazes towards Yiqing Qian had turned into worship and ecstasy. Yiqing Luo understood Yiqing Qian's motive for coming here, but she pretended not to see her as she held Lu Xiaoyu and walked directly into the freshman training ground. "Yiqing Luo." Yiqing Qian's eyes sunk as she called out to Yiqing Luo coldly. Yiqing Luo ignored her as though she didn't hear anything. This action infuriated Yiqing Qian. Yesterday, after she realized that the intruder was Yiqing Luo, she couldn't sleep at all. She specially asked Yiqing Luo's dormitory mate Lu Shuiyu to probe, but she didn't expect Lu Shuiyu to totally ignore her. For the entire night, Yiqing Qian's eyes seemed to be floating in the training forest. The red-robed lady's veil which was lifted and the outline which was vaguely revealed kept overlapping with Yiqing Luo's face. Tormented her for the entire night. Yiqing Qian had been waiting here for Yiqing Luo since early in the morning. Only by probing herself would she be able to ascertain if that red-robed lady was Yiqing Luo or not. The current her was feeling vexed as she suppressed her anger. Especially when she saw Yiqing Luo, who had tormented her for the entire night, this anger surged uncontrollably into her heart. Yiqing Qian shot a glance to the side. Following her were Shangguan Fangyi and Yan Zhenfei. Yesterday they had suffered such a huge loss in the hands of the intruder. If they were able to ascertain that Yiqing Luo was the intruder, they would absolutely not let her off easily. The two of them swiftly went up and blocked Yiqing Luo. Yiqing Luo's slender eyes narrowed as her red lips curled into an enchanting cold arc. A good dog doesn't block the way, scram to one side. The minute she opened her mouth, she wasn't courteous at all. Yiqing Luo scoffed lightly as she raised her hand to slap the arm which was placed horizontally in front of her. Shangguan Fangyi didn't expect Yiqing Luo to make a move as he suddenly withdrew his hand. But no matter how fast his reaction was, he wasn't able to match Yiqing Luo's speed. Yiqing Luo's hand looked like a casual slap, but her fingertips were extremely sharp. A gash appeared on his sleeve. It wasn't a big cut, but this action was like a vicious slap to Shangguan Fangyi's face. That rather handsome face instantly turned gloomy. "Yiqing Luo, you dare to make a move in front of so many students. Are you trying to violate the Academy's rules? Violate the Academy's regulations?" Yiqing Luo's charming eyes curved as she couldn't help but laugh out. "Which eye of yours saw me making a move? You blocked my way without any explanation. Should I also say that you attacked me?" Shangguan Fangyi's words were blocked, and his face turned red. His tightly clenched fists were already bulging with veins as he forcefully suppressed his rage. "Seventh sister." Yiqing Qian slowly walked towards her, the corners of her lips curled up into a faint smile as she spoke in a gentle tone. "Eldest sister has something to ask you." Her expression was gentle, her smile was gentle, and her tone was gentle. However, the cold probing and scrutinizing look in his eyes was extremely obvious. Yiqing Qian's brows creased slightly as she secretly had some doubts in her heart. Yesterday she had used 100% of her strength, completely charging her Earth Profound Grade Profound Qi into the intruder's body. That intruder's profound grade was absolutely not high, so there was no way he could defend against her profound chi attack. Even if in the end, the intruder rode on the mirage beast and escaped from the training forest. But that intruder would absolutely suffer an extremely serious internal injury, and without lying in bed for 10 days to half a month, he would definitely not be able to climb up. Chapter 354. Yiqing Qian's brows creased slightly, as her beautiful eyes stared at Yiqing Luo's hand. Yesterday, she had lashed the trespasser's arm with her whip. She could clearly see that the intruder's arm had been whipped till the flesh split open, as fresh blood flowed out. With the profound chi of the earth-profound realm, ordinary people would probably be crippled if they received that whip. Even if that intruder was not an ordinary person, after receiving that whip and her profound chi attacking her internal organs, that arm would be crippled if not crippled. But Yiqing Luo raised her hand to slap away Shangguan Fang Yi's hand, which was coincidentally injured by her whip. Could it be that the intruder was really not Yiqing Luo? I heard that eldest sister has already broken through to the profound earth realm. You're indeed the pride of the Yi family. Yiqing Luo's eyes opened into a long arc, as she revealed a teasing smile, as she blinked her eyes innocently. A few days ago, eldest sister was punished to wash the latrine for 3 days. This punishment actually helped eldest sister to break through to the profound earth realm. Looks like eldest sister and the latrine are fated. Yiqing Qian's smiling face instantly darkened. Her stomach started to roll. Yiqing Luo seemed as though she didn't see Yiqing Qian's expression as she giggled. It's the Academy's holidays in a few days. Why not hand the Yi family's latrine over to eldest sister to clean? Perhaps the next time we meet, eldest sister will become a sky mystic overlord cultivator. Her tone was coquettish, sweet with a hint of a young lady's innocence. Coupled with that exquisite beautiful face, it was impossible to believe that Yiqing Luo intentionally said these words, or that she really thought that Yiqing Qian would be able to advance by cleaning the latrine. Full of sarcasm. Instantly, the surrounding students burst out laughing. Yiqing Qian's face was a mix of green and red as she frowned. That day when she was cleaning the latrine, it seemed to fill her nose again. Cleaning the latrine for 3 days was a memory that Yiqing Qian didn't want to recall for the rest of her life. That was the biggest stain in her life. After she was punished, the students didn't dare to laugh in front of her because she was a high-profound class student, nor did they dare to mention it. But now, the culprit who caused her to be punished to clean the latrine for 3 days, was actually using this stain to ridicule her in front of all the new students. A chord in Yiqing Qian's brain snapped. That pair of gentle and lively beautiful eyes shot out an intense hatred. Just as Yiqing Qian flew into a rage and attempted to make a move, the hand that she raised was pressed down by a slender hand. Then, a cold voice rang out, "Student Yi, can you tell us where you were for the entire day yesterday?" It was Lu Shuyu. She stood in front of Yiqing Qian with her head held high and the expression on her face was as cold as usual. Yiqing Luo's eyes narrowed as her slender brows rose slightly. Sure enough, these two people hooked up again. She had originally wanted to agitate Yiqing Qian into losing her rationality and force her to make a move. Then he asked Lu Xiaoyu to summon the instructors and directly send Yiqing Qian to the elder quarters. This way, she could follow the script and continue to develop. She had not expected Lu Shuiyu to rush over and even specially stopped Yiqing Qian. Yiqing Luo's eyes flashed with ridicule as she laughed lightly. "Don't tell me where I am, where I go, what I eat and what I do. I have to tell Vice President everything? Don't talk glibly, you know what you're doing." Lu Shuiyu's face sunk. That term Vice President was simply a slap on her face. Chapter 355. Seventh Sister, you've misunderstood Shuiyu's meaning. Yiqing Qian smiled lightly, gently put her hand on Lu Shuiyu's shoulder and walked past her towards Yiqing Luo. "The academy will be on holiday in a few days. I want to ask you if you want to go home with me." As she said, her hand naturally grabbed Yiqing Luo's hand. Yiqing Luo sneered in her heart. she understood that Yi Qingqian wanted to test if there was any whip wound on her arm. Since Yi Qingqian wanted to test, then she naturally had to give her a big gift. Yi Qing Luo's gaze fell on Yi Qingqian's hand, her expression changed immediately and she took a few steps back in a panic. "Elder sister, this, you can't touch here." Her dodging made Yi Qingqian's eyes lit up. Especially when she saw the panic on Yi Qing Luo's face, she was even more certain of her guess. If Yi Qing Luo's arm was really injured, then she was definitely the intruder yesterday. "Why can't I touch here?" Yi Qingqian put on a puzzled look. "Do you feel uncomfortable anywhere? Let me take a look." This time, Yi Qingqian directly grabbed Yi Qing Luo's wrist forcefully. She didn't forget to pretend to be concerned as she muttered, "Child, you're so worrisome both at home and in the academy. If you're not feeling well, just tell me. In this academy, I'm your only family. No wonder you're a student from the high profound class. Your profound grade is extremely high, your innate talent is strong, you're beautiful and so kind, treating your sister so well." In the training ground, a freshman stared at Yi Qingqian with an envious look. "Kind? I didn't see how kind this genius from the high profound class is." Dong Huang Lang spat disdainfully and looked at Yi Qingqian mockingly. "Who doesn't know how to pretend, who knows what she's planning?" Although the other freshmen didn't dare to say it out openly like Dong Huang Lang, but they all nodded and agreed with what he said. The surrounding students were basically this batch of new students. Seeing this scene of sisterly affection, they were all suspicious. They weren't fools and their memories hadn't deteriorated. Yi Qingqian even brought Lu Shuiyu to find trouble with Yi Qing Luo in front of them. It was obvious that the relationship between the two sisters was not as good as it appeared to be. Moreover, the reason why he was waiting for Yi Qing Luo at the training ground so early in the morning was to ask her if she wanted to go home together with him. The freshmen looked at each other in dismay. No matter how they looked at it, they felt that Yi Qingqian had another motive. Due to the incident where Yi Qingqian led Lu Shuiyu to slander Yi Qing Luo for violating the academy's regulations, these freshmen's impression of Yi Qingqian had long fallen to the bottom of the valley. That was how people were. When you're doing well, everyone thinks that you're doing well. But when you have the slightest stain, you will deny everything you have ever had and only remember that stain. To these freshmen, there wasn't any image of Yi Qingqian's gentleness and elegance in their mind. What existed was only the image of Yi Qingqian targeting her own sister, and in the end, she went for wool and came home shorn, being punished to clean the latrine. After all, for the past half a month, although Yi Qing Luo didn't interact much with them, but every time she trained, her serious and determined attitude was able to motivate everyone, persevering to complete the daily training. Even the cold-faced instructor was full of praise for Yi Qing Luo. These freshmen naturally stood on Yi Qing Luo's side. However, Yi Qingqian didn't notice this. Her face still hung a concerned smile, her 5 fingers locked onto Yi Qing Luo's wrist, grabbing her arm. Chapter 356. Just as Yi Qingqian's hand was about to touch Yi Qing Luo's bandaged wound, Yi Qing Luo's arm suddenly retracted as she blinked her flustered eyes. "Sister, you really can't touch, I..." This retraction made Yi Qingqian's hand, which was clasping her wrist, slid downwards. Yi Qingqian's grip was extremely tight, and this slip caused the thing in Yi Qing Luo's tight sleeve to slip out, falling into Yi Qingqian's hand. Yi Qingqian originally clasped Yi Qing Luo's wrist tightly, but after Yi Qing Luo struggled free, her palm grabbed onto a soft thing, subconsciously clenched tightly. Immediately, a lump of yellow stuff oozed out from the handkerchief and covered Yi Qingqian's hand. It was sticky and yellow stuff, and it even had a strange stench. This visual impact looked like a hand. Hot shit. Yi Qingqian's face instantly turned as black as charcoal. That mashed up and yellow lump reminded her of a few days ago when she was cleaning the latrine. In the process of cleaning, she couldn't help but be stained with those substances. Immediately, the feeling of tumbling in her stomach became more obvious. The smile on her face could no longer hang on. When the surrounding freshmen saw the lump of stuff in Yi Qingqian's hand, all of their expressions turned ugly and wanted to laugh. Some even held onto the wall as they retched. Sigh. Eldest sister, I said you can't touch it, look. On the contrary, Yi Qing Luo, who was hiding this pile of yellow stuff, looked at Yi Qingqian with a face full of reproach. This is the mud sculpture which I had painstakingly made yesterday when I was competing with Devil Class's students in playing mud. I still wanted to bring it home and place it in my room. Mud? The freshmen widened their eyes as they stared at the lump of stuff in Yi Qingqian's hand as their mouths twitched. Some of the freshmen had sharp ears and heard the 3 words Devil Class. It was indeed the Devil Class which was known as the Waste Class. Other students trained hard and worked hard to learn knowledge, while Devil Class students competed in playing mud? When the freshmen thought of Yi Qing Luo's performance in training, all of them felt that it was a pity. She was obviously a moldable talent, but she was allocated to the waste class and had to accompany a bunch of waste to play mud. This was simply ruining Yi Qing Luo. Big sister, you broke my mud sculpture. You have to compensate me. Yi Qing Luo seemed as though she didn't notice the gazes of the surrounding people as she spoke out in grievance. She felt wronged? She still wants me to compensate her? Yi Qingqian's expression was colorful as she was so angry that she wanted to slap Yi Qing Luo to death. Putting a lump of mud in her sleeves without rhyme or reason and putting on an innocent look, Yi Qing Luo was deliberately playing with her. Yi Qing Luo's charming eyes blinked again as she stared at the lump of yellow substance that Yi Qingqian was stiffly carrying. After some time, her expression changed as she covered her nose and retreated backwards. Elder sister, you look like you've caught a lump of sh*t. It would have been better if he hadn't said it. The moment he said it, the surrounding freshmen who were suppressing their laughter and felt disgusted couldn't help but burst into laughter. Yi Qing Luo, you! Yi Qingqian's face was filled with hatred as she gritted her teeth and wanted to use that lump of thing in her hand to wipe Yi Qing Luo's face. But when she raised her hand, Yi Qing Luo took a few steps back with a look of disgust. The lump of yellow stuff in her hand was sticky to begin with. After she raised her hand, that sticky lump of mud fell from her hand onto the ground. It looked more like a pile of sh*t. It's almost time for training, what are you all doing, still not lining up? Chapter 357. Instructor Ho and Instructor Chu walked over expressionlessly as they glanced coldly at Yi Qingqian with an unfriendly expression. It's freshman training time, what are you students from the high profound class doing here? Yi Qingqian had a stomach full of anger and nowhere to vent it. Now that the instructors were here, she could only swallow her anger. Instructor Chu's gaze shifted to Yi Qingqian's hand which was raised in midair, and after a glance at the lump of yellow substance, he frowned. I heard that student Yi was punished to clean the latrine a few days ago. I didn't expect student Yi to fall in love with things in the latrine. But this thing is harmful after all, you are a student of the high profound class, pay attention to your image, don't smear the name of the high profound class, if you like this stuff, just hide in the dormitory and play with it. This was the first time the freshmen heard Instructor Chu say such a long sentence. They didn't expect him to be so humorous when he looked cold and black. The freshmen couldn't help but burst out laughing. After saying this, Instructor Chu didn't even look at Yi Qingqian. He walked directly to the middle of the training ground and shouted loudly, "A bunch of little brats, gather immediately!" Yi Qingqian, who was ignored, her twisted face flushed red. She bit her lips hard, restraining the surging anger in her heart. The other party was an instructor, even if he was a freshman instructor, she couldn't refute him. Otherwise, she would be disrespectful and didn't know how to respect the teachers. Especially in front of a group of freshmen, she might even be labeled as a bad influence. Shangguan Fang Yi and Yan Zhenfei, who followed behind, saw this situation and walked over with an ugly expression. "Student Qingqian, let's leave first." Obviously, the two instructors were helping Yi Qing Luo. They originally came to test if Yiqing Luo was the intruder in the training ground, but not only did they not succeed, they were humiliated instead. Even if they stayed, they would be a joke to the other students. There was no way to gain any advantage. If it wasn't for the fact that the training forest was a secret place, it would definitely cause panic among the students if the news spread out. They were ordered by the elders not to divulge anything. Otherwise they would directly strip Yiqing Luo's clothes and forcibly check if she was injured. Leave. Yiqing Qian's sinister beautiful eyes were covered with frost as she gave a cold humph. Why should I leave? Training is about to begin. As the eldest sister, I naturally have to take a good look and see if my seventh younger sister, who likes to play with mud, is training properly. When she mentioned the word mud, Yiqing Qian gritted her teeth. The two of them were startled, but they immediately reacted. They had all experienced the freshman training, so they naturally knew how tough and tiring it was. Based on the extent of Yiqing Qian's serious injury to that intruder last night, it was absolutely impossible for her to take on these training. Although Shangguan Fang Yi and Yanzhen Fei had long dispelled their suspicions towards Yiqing Luo, one must know that Yiqing Qian had unleashed an earth-profound practitioner's coercion yesterday. Yiqing Luo was just a yellow profound 9th grade cultivator. Her internal organs had been attacked by an earth-profound's coercion, and she was still alive and kicking in the training grounds? But looking at Yiqing Qian's ashen face and that **T, the two of them knew that she was infuriated and could only stay behind. When Yiqing Luo heard the instructor's shouts, she followed along. Lu Xiaoyu followed behind her as she stretched out her hand and hooked onto Yiqing Luo's arm. Qing Luo, when did you hide such a thing in your sleeves? Ha ha ha, Yiqing Qian's expression is just too good. I've watched a good show so early in the morning. Chapter 358. Earlier Yiqing Qian had grabbed her wrist with a lot of strength, and in order to squeeze the mud wrapped in her sleeve into Yiqing Qian's hand, she had used a lot of strength to struggle free. This struggle had probably caused the wound on her arm to split open again. Yiqing Qian's whip yesterday was too vicious. Yiqing Luo took a deep breath as she endured the pain and didn't show it on her face. Lu Xiaoyu felt Yiqing Luo's body stiffening and recalled Yiqing Luo's pale face yesterday. A trace of annoyance flashed past her eyes. She immediately loosened her hand. This morning, seeing Yiqing Luo's radiant look, she thought Yiqing Luo was fine. Her heart was filled with guilt as she followed behind Yiqing Luo, her eyes filled with worry. Standing in the team, Yiqing Luo's gaze swept past Yiqing Qian, who was standing outside the training ground as she frowned. She knew Yiqing Qian wasn't someone who could be easily dismissed, but she didn't expect that after personally testing her to confirm that she was not injured, Yiqing Qian still hadn't dispelled the thought of suspecting her. Just a slight movement of her arm and Dmo Qian's pain relief had lost its effect. If she continued to train, her internal injury would probably worsen. Just as Yiqing Luo was waiting anxiously for Old Man Yu to appear, she suddenly heard Instructor Ho's cold voice. High profound class students, please do not disturb the freshmen's training. If you have the time, why don't you go to the square and run a few rounds? Not waiting for Yiqing Qian to reply, Instructor Ho's icy cold gaze fell onto Yiqing Luo. Student Yi, to create such a commotion early in the morning and even delay his students' training, go to the library pavilion now and clean up the second floor. If you haven't sorted it out properly, don't leave the library pavilion today. The minute he said that, Yiqing Qian's expression changed as her expression changed. She subconsciously clenched her fists, but forgot that her palms were filled with sticky yellow substance. The moment she clenched her fists, the mud on her hands was squeezed out. It landed on Shangguan Fang Yi and Yanzhen Fei, who were standing nearest to her. Both of their faces flushed red. Their hearts were filled with disgust, but they didn't dare to show it on their faces. Yiqing Qian was so infuriated that she was trembling and her throat felt a fishy sweetness as she almost vomited blood. She originally wanted to probe out Yiqing Luo's true colors, and as long as she was certain that Yiqing Luo was the intruder, The elder quarters would absolutely not let her off easily. He had never expected that he would become a joke. She took a deep breath and suppressed the rage in her heart. She didn't believe that Yiqing Luo could be so lucky for a few more times. With a swing of her arm, Yiqing Qian's face darkened as she turned around and left the freshman training grounds. The freshman's vision fell from Yiqing Qian to Yiqing Luo. She shook her head in sympathy. It was obviously Yiqing Qian who came looking for trouble, but the one who was punished was Yiqing Luo. Although they were freshmen, they knew that the library of the Heavenly Academy was so big that one could get lost in the toilet. To clean the library, even if they cleaned for an entire day, they might not be able to finish it. While the freshmen were pitying her, Yiqing Luo heaved a sigh of relief. It was a good thing for her to clean the library and avoid training. At least in the library, no one would find out that she was injured. Yiqing Luo took a step forward and raised her eyes to look at Instructor Ho. Yes. When she saw the helpless and worried look in Instructor Ho's eyes, Yiqing Luo suddenly understood. It looked like the instructors had discovered Yiqing Qian's motive for looking for her. They could tell that she was indeed injured. That was why they asked her to go to the library. It was perfectly justifiable to avoid training and avoid Yiqing Qian's sight. Chapter 359. The Heavenly Academy's library pavilion was equivalent to the modern society's library, gathering all kinds of books from the Nirvana realm. There were also many books that were lost in the outside world, which could be found here. Mental cultivation methods, everything was there. But the library pavilion also had its own rules. You had to rely on your ability to speak. The first level of the library pavilion was open to all students, but most of them were ordinary books on profound qi, cultivation methods, moves, etc. Whereas the second level of the library pavilion was rumored to be divided into several categories. Each book was a famous word in the outside world, but they were all rare treasures. It was rumored that there were students on the second level who had learned many useful mental cultivation methods. However, low and intermediate profound class students were not qualified to go up to the second level of the library pavilion, nor were they qualified to borrow books back to the dormitory to read. Although high profound class students were qualified to go up to the second level, but there were restrictions. For example, the cabinet on the second level, high profound class students were absolutely not allowed to step into it. And the books on the second level could not be brought out of the library pavilion. Only the students from the class of God could enjoy all the preferential treatment in the library pavilion. Yiqing Luo had originally intended to find time to visit the library pavilion after the freshman training, to familiarize herself with the situation in this strange world. She had not expected to come to the library pavilion early today. And it was directly up to the second level. Yiqing Luo took the punishment slip from Instructor Ho, and under the guidance of the librarian, went up to the second level. Of course, no one was envious of Yiqing Luo being able to go up to the second level. As the second level was more secretive, the librarian was not qualified to stay on the second level for too long, so it had been a long time since they cleaned up. The huge second level, even if Yiqing Luo went up to the second level, just cleaning up would take up an entire day. Where would she find the time to read? The second level was brightly lit, and the four sides were inlaid with fist-sized luminous pearls. The furnishings on the second level were different from the first level. The first level was row after row of bookshelves, categorized according to the area, whereas on the second level, each category had its own individual room. As far as the eye could see, it was room after room, with the category of books pasted on the door. After the librarian opened the door to the second level, he went downstairs. Yiqing Luo had been enduring the pain, and now that she was alone, her face instantly turned pale and her forehead started to sweat. She looked around and confirmed that there were no high profound class students on the second floor. She then pushed a random reading room and locked the door. Leaning against the wall, she slowly sat on the floor. Yiqing Luo unbuttoned her shirt, revealing half of her shoulder. The whip wound on his arm had indeed split open. At this moment, bright red blood seeped out and dyed the white gauze red. She took out the pill that Biming Lulu had given her from the profound phoenix ring and swallowed it. Then, he bandaged his wound again. He leaned against the wall and closed his eyes. After resting for a long time, the pain in his right arm gradually disappeared. However, she couldn't do any physical training right now. As for cleaning, she probably couldn't do it either. Yiqing Luo took a deep breath, propped herself up against the wall, and walked out of the reading room. She had to read through all the books on the second floor before she could sort out the best tidying plan and quickly finish the cleaning. There weren't many people on the second level, and no one had tidied it up for a long time. There was a lot of dust and the categories were randomly placed. Yiqing Luo walked all the way to the end of the second level and memorized all the categories on the door. His mind began to think about where to start cleaning, the easiest and most efficient way to complete the task of cleaning. Chapter 360. Someone's there? Yiqing Luo cautiously stopped her actions as her body subconsciously leaned against the wall. This voice didn't sound like a young man's voice, but an extremely deep voice, at least 30 to 40-year-old middle-aged man's voice. Heavenly Academy students, the oldest was only 24 years old. Because Heavenly Academy had a rule, if one was unable to graduate from the academy before 25, he would be expelled from the academy directly. The library pavilion was only open to high profound class and class of God students. Even if the masters wanted to come, they had to get the approval from the elders. Because of this, when she heard this deep middle-aged man's voice, Yiqing Luo instinctively felt that this person had ill intentions. It's settled. The students will be on holiday in 2 days' time. I've already kept those few people whom his lordship had pointed out, without leaving any traces. Following that, a sinister voice was heard. This voice sounded familiar to Yiqing Luo, but she couldn't recall where she had heard this voice before. And this conversation was filled with a strange feeling, as though they were carrying out some sort of plan. Perhaps it was because this timing wasn't the time to read. Or perhaps the two of them often met here at this time of the day. These two didn't check if there was anyone on the second floor of the library pavilion and directly started their conversation. The two of them had already walked into the library pavilion and were standing in the middle of the long corridor in the middle of the reading room. Yiqing Luo was at the end of the long corridor, a long distance away from them, but the surroundings were lit up by the luminous pearls. As long as she took a slight turn, she would be exposed to these two men's line of sight. Hearing their footsteps nearing, Yiqing Luo's heart tightened. These two men's conversation was obviously a secret. If they discovered her existence, they would definitely silence her. In this academy where there were crouching tigers and hidden dragons, Yiqing Luo didn't think that she had the ability to escape from these two undetectable middle-aged men. She congealed her senses and silently recited the incantation in her heart. Her feet shook slightly as she displayed the blink movement's secret art and quietly slipped into the reading room at the end of the corridor. She stuck close to the tightly shut wooden door, not daring to make any more movements. Following that, she heard the two men outside walking as they continued to speak. That freshman. Don't worry. I'm keeping a close eye on that freshman. He will absolutely not let his lordship down. When the middle-aged man heard this, he nodded with satisfaction. After a long silence, the middle-aged man said in a deep voice, adding a bit of solemnity, Master's great plan is about to be completed. If anything happens at this critical juncture, I won't be able to protect your life. Don't worry, Lord Protector. We will do our best to serve the Lord. The middle-aged man nodded in satisfaction. I will put in a few good words for you in front of the Lord. See you in 2 days. Many thanks to Lord Protector, Lord Protector's great kindness. I will never forget it. Another person immediately flattered, showing his loyalty. Not long after, the corridor outside returned to silence. Yiqing Luo didn't go out immediately and didn't dare to risk releasing her perception to sense if the people outside were still around. About an hour later, the entire second floor was completely silent. Yiqing Luo then rubbed her 4 stiff limbs which had not moved at all. At this moment, the blood in her body had already numbed her entire body. As she relaxed her 4 limbs, Yiqing Luo's brain was spinning rapidly. From the conversation between the 2 men earlier, Yiqing Luo heard a few messages. 1. These 2 men were preparing to implement some plan during the Academy's holiday. 2. The few people whom they pointed out were likely to be related to the Heavenly Academy and needed those few people to complete the plan. 3. Above them was a mysterious man who was addressed as His Lordship. Chapter 361. Not knowing if it was her misperception, Yiqing Luo inexplicably felt that the freshman whom they were referring to seemed to be her. These 2 people, who on earth were they? Moreover, why did one of their voices sound so familiar? But no matter how she searched her super-strong memory, she couldn't recall who this voice belonged to. Somehow, she felt that she had heard something incredible. She furrowed her brows, and her expression became slightly dignified. If the news of her cleaning the 2nd story of the library pavilion were to spread, these 2 people would definitely think that she had eavesdropped on their conversation, even if they weren't sure if Yiqing Luo had really heard it. But apparently, the matter they were discussing was an extremely important matter. She would rather kill wrongly than let it go. Sigh. She didn't expect that she would bump into such a matter when she was punished to clean the library pavilion. She was afraid. Her future days were not going to be peaceful. Yiqing Luo's slender fingers pinched her aching brows. This matter, she would discuss it with Dmo Xian tonight. For now, it was better to tidy up the 2nd story first. Before the other party took any action, she better not let the cat out of the bag. Yiqing Luo finished stretching her limbs and was preparing to leave the room when her footsteps halted. Because the room she was in now wasn't the reading room. Earlier when she hid in, she placed all her attention on the conversation between the 2 and totally didn't notice the surrounding environment. Yiqing Luo narrowed her eyes as she surveyed the surroundings of the room. This wasn't a reading room, but an alchemy room. In the spacious room, there were 2 large medicinal cabinets along the wall, and in the middle of the room were 2 huge wooden tables. On the wall opposite the medicinal cabinets, there was a bookshelf and books were piled messily on it. On the wooden table, there was a pile of bottles and jars. Some were successfully refined pills and some failed pills, all piled up into a messy pile. On the other wooden table, there were various kinds of alchemy equipment as well as messy medicinal herbs and magical beasts' skin and bones. Why was there an alchemy room on the 2nd story of the library pavilion? As an alchemist, upon seeing these rare medicinal herbs and pills, Yiqing Luo instantly became excited as she walked quickly to the front of the wooden table. Yiqing Luo first looked at the pill refining equipment on the table, as she started to sort out the messy pile of medicinal herbs. Every single type of herbs, Yiqing Luo would use her fingers to measure the size of these herbs, and from time to time she would sniff it. Yiqing Luo had seen these herbs in the 100 pill refining books, and they were all rare and precious. But there were several herbs which Yiqing Luo couldn't identify. After Yiqing Luo had distributed these medicinal herbs, her vision turned towards the other table where those bottles and jars were. She walked over and picked up a bottle. The medicine bottle was just an ordinary porcelain, and it could not hide the faint fragrance of medicine. Yiqing Luo sniffed it and opened one of the bottles, pouring out one pill. It was a small, exquisite pill. There was even a faintly discernible flowing light on the surface of the pill. This discovery made Yiqing Luo's eyes burst out a ray of light. She had refined so many elixirs, but none of the elixirs she had refined had such a peculiar phenomenon. Putting the pills back into the bottle, Yiqing Luo casually picked up the wooden box by the side, which was filled with failed pills. The pills were full of potholes and had yet to take shape. Yiqing Luo picked up one pill and took a look. That medicinal fragrance apparently wasn't refined using ordinary pills. Chapter 362. Yiqing Luo walked around and conveniently tidied up the messy things on the table. These medicinal herbs were very light and didn't require much effort. Yiqing Luo used one hand to tidy up the things on the two tables. She noticed the medicinal cabinets and bookshelves in the room. To an alchemist, the medicinal herbs and books used to refine pills were the most interesting things in the world. Yiqing Luo was no exception. Her current level of alchemy was still stuck at the level of an alchemist, although she was still one stage away from being a grandmaster, but the pills that the two of them refined were not just one grade apart. This alchemy room was obviously the place of a top-grade alchemist who was above her. Pills and medicinal herbs were not ordinary items. Presumably the books on the bookshelves were precious alchemy books which couldn't be found in the outside world. With this thought in mind, Yiqing Luo walked towards the bookshelves. Her hand had just touched the bookshelf, and she wanted to take out a book. However, as soon as his hand touched it, before he could even react, the ground beneath his feet suddenly became empty, and his body abruptly sank. This sinking, Yiqing Luo's hand directly fell onto a slope and her entire body rolled down the slope. The pain from the wound which she had finally stopped was once again felt a heart-wrenching pain. That warm light which was released from the profound jade heart started to spread chaotically in her body. Her 5 viscera and 6 bowels were no longer covered by the warm light. Immediately, a heart-wrenching pain invaded her limbs and bones. Damn it! She was in so much pain. Yiqing Luo broke out in cold sweat as she laid on the ground with her limbs spread wide open, totally unable to move. The pain from the whip and internal injury struck her at the same time, and she really couldn't take it. Lying on the ground, she panted heavily. After some time, she slowly regained her senses. There was actually a secret passage in that alchemy room. She didn't know what she had bumped into, but she actually fell into the secret passage. Yiqing Luo's head moved as she checked the surrounding situation. This was an extremely spacious secret room. In the entire secret room, there was only a medicinal cauldron in the middle. At this moment, that medicinal cauldron was floating in midair, and below the medicinal cauldron was a ball of warm fire. Apparently it was in the process of refining pills, but there was no alchemist around. Yiqing Luo's eyes widened in astonishment as she carefully scanned the surroundings and released her perception. However, there was indeed no one else in the empty secret room. Girl, the person who refined this medicine cauldron should be an ancestral alchemist. Old Man Tsang's voice sounded in her mind. The medicine sect? Yiqing Luo was shocked. Isn't it the same level as your alchemy? The quality of this alchemist's medicine refinement should be above mine. Old Man Tsang sighed with emotion. Alchemists above the alchemy ancestor level can leave at any time in the middle of refining pills. Like Yiqing Luo, when she was refining the medicinal pills, she had to sit by the side of the divine dragon cauldron at all times, controlling the heart fire and observing the formation of the medicinal pills. If she could advance to the rank of a medicine master, she would be able to control her heart fire as she pleased during pill refinement. She would no longer need to watch over her pill refinement, and she would be able to save a lot of time. Lass, think of a way to leave this place. Old Man Tsang said worriedly. If we wait for the medicine sect's alchemist to return, I'm afraid that he will mistakenly think that you're trying to steal the pills. At that time, it will be troublesome if there's a misunderstanding. Indeed troublesome. Based on Yiqing Luo's current condition, if she really met with a medicine sect's alchemist, she wouldn't even have the ability to escape. If the Heavenly Academy's medicine sect's alchemist treated her as a student who stole the pills and captured her to the director, the news of her being in the library pavilion today would probably spread throughout the entire academy. Chapter 363. Yiqing Luo shut her eyes and slept quietly for a moment. Following that, she took a deep breath and forcefully endured the intense pain as she sat up straight. The four sides were sealed off by stone walls, and the slope, which she had rolled down from earlier, was also sealed off by the stone wall, with no entrance to be seen. Based on Yi Qing Luo's current state, there was no way to open that stone wall. This is troublesome. Old man Tsang's tone was grave. I have no way to manifest my spiritual body to open this stone wall for you. Why not? Summon Shiju out to try? Yi Qing Luo nodded. She couldn't use her strength. But luckily, she had Shiju with her. Yi Qing Luo took a deep breath and called Shiju out. Shiju was in the pet space and had already heard their conversation. The minute it appeared, it didn't need Yi Qing Luo's instruction as its little body arched up. Its fur stood up and its body suddenly became huge. Roar! Shiju gave a low growl as its beast eyes were pitch black and sharp. Its huge body suddenly leapt up and its huge leopard claw directly slammed onto the stone wall. Bam! A loud sound was heard. Yi Qing Luo felt the entire secret room shook thrice. But that stone wall didn't move at all, not even a single piece of debris. Yi Qing Luo blinked. Shiju blinked. One human and one beast looked at each other, speechless. What the hell was this situation? Shiju's claw had used 80% of its strength, and it was actually unable to break through this stone wall? What kind of place was this? So powerful! Roar, roar! Shiju's eyes flashed as it raised its claw unyieldingly and slammed onto that stone wall. This claw shook the entire secret room, as though it was about to collapse. Yi Qing Luo's body swayed a little, causing waves of throbbing pain in her internal organs. Her slender brows creased into a bundle as she sucked in several breaths of cold air. However, the stone wall still didn't budge. Don't tell me I really have to wait for that alchemist to return before I can leave? Roar, roar! Shiju's body suddenly shrunk as it nestled beside Yi Qing Luo, sticking out its little tongue as it licked her face. The low whimper seemed to be apologizing to Yi Qing Luo. Yi Qing Luo's lips twitched. It's not your fault, I know you've tried your best, looks like. The owner of this secret room is a very powerful person. Even as a mirage beast, Shiju had no way of knocking open this stone wall. This was enough to prove that the medicine sex alchemist's power was definitely at the earth mystic realm and above. Yi Qing Luo had just finished her words when suddenly a light fluttering voice was heard by her ear. This little girl is quite self-aware. This voice was so cold that it seemed to be covered in a layer of frost. Before Yi Qing Luo could even turn around, her body suddenly felt light as she was grabbed by her collar and forcefully pulled up. Shiju, who was lying by her side, because of the sudden action, fell off Yi Qing Luo's body as it waved its little claws towards the sky. This action made Yi Qing Luo's internal organs feel as though they were being torn apart, causing her forehead to be filled with cold sweat. A skinny old man stood in front of him. His entire body was enveloped in a white long robe, even his head was covered tightly. This white robe didn't look like the robes of the masters or elders' quarters. It was plain and clean without any patterns, just like a clean piece of white cloth. The only adornment was the 5 golden star-shaped badge which was embedded in front of his chest. Under the long robe, that pair of malicious eyes were so cold that there wasn't a single trace of emotion. His hand easily grabbed Yi Qing Luo's collar as he got closer to her. "Young lady, get out of here." Chapter 364. This throw made Yi Qing Luo like a kite with a broken string as she fell out. Yi Qing Luo couldn't muster up any strength, so she had no way to maintain her balance. Seeing that it was about to crash into the stone wall, that Shiju, which was sprawled on the ground, scurried towards Yi Qing Luo like lightning. Its body size turned huge in time as it used its plump and huge body to block Yi Qing Luo. Shiju's skin was very thick, and the moment it crashed into it, Yi Qing Luo felt as though her body was falling apart as the pain was unbearable. This man. His temper was really weird. Throwing her away without any explanation, did he treat her as an object? Yi Qing Luo's collar was held in Shiju's mouth as it slowly placed her on the ground. It specially laid on the ground as it used its body to support Yi Qing Luo's body. Earlier it was you, this little thing, who wanted to smash the secret room which I used 1,000-years-old crystal to create? Long-robed old man's cold gaze shot toward Shiju. When he saw Shiju, his eyes flashed past a trace of covetous intent. Good skeleton. Good skin. His words had just ended when the long-robed old man's figure flashed and stood in front of Yi Qing Luo. Under the loose long robe, a withered yellow arm stretched out as its 5 fingers turned into a claw as it clawed towards Shiju's neck. That momentum was extremely ferocious, as though a whirlwind had struck. Mirage beasts were born with strong senses and could acutely sense the long-robed old man's murderous intent as its eyes instantly filled with a scarlet color. Its fangs bit onto Yi Qing Luo's collar as it speedily retreated. Bam! A loud sound was heard as the long-robed old man's hand, which had turned into an eagle's claw, struck against the stone wall. Earlier, no matter how Shiju slammed against the stone wall, it didn't even leave a single scratch on the stone wall. That eagle's claw had actually scratched out 5 cracks. Stones splattered out as it landed on the ground. Yi Qing Luo's pupils constricted as her heart was overwhelmed with shock. This old man was not an ordinary kind of powerful. Shiju was unable to smash the stone wall, but he had easily left a mark on it. Yi Qing Luo didn't dare to imagine what would happen if the old man's hand had landed on Shiju's neck. Her eyes were covered with a layer of vigilance and coldness as she was worried that Shiju would be frightened. She endured the pain as she caressed Shiju's body as she patted it gently. After all, Shiju's age among the mirage beasts was only equivalent to a 7 or 8-year-old child. "Little girl, leave the magical beast. You scram." The cold voice was filled with madness and excitement. The pair of eyes under the white robe seemed to be staring at its prey, revealing a bloodthirsty delight. This old man's madness was completely unlike Guiyu's wanton madness. It was true insanity. From this old man's tone and expression, Yi Qing Luo was extremely certain that he wasn't joking. Recalling the magical beast's skin and bones on the table in the pill refining room, Yi Qing Luo's heart surged with a chill. This old man wanted to use Shiju's skin, flesh, and bones to turn them into ingredients for refining medicine. "Senior, I'm a student of the devil class. Today I've been punished to the 2nd level to clean up. I didn't mean to offend Senior." Her eyes were alert, her tone was neither servile nor overbearing. She revealed her identity. For this old man to be in the Heavenly Academy and to be able to establish his own alchemist on the 2nd floor of the library pavilion, he must be one of the higher-ups in the Heavenly Academy. It was very likely that they were from the Elder Division. As a student, she was protected by the Academy. That old man in long robe raised his withered yellow arm and directly lifted the robe on his head, revealing a skinny little face. He was over 50 years old. His face was pale and his eyelids sunken, looking as though he was physically weak. But his dignified expression made one feel intimidated. Chapter 365. Even if I have no intention to offend you, I will absolutely not allow anyone to step into my pill refining room. Long-robed old man's lips curled into a sinister arc. Either you scram and leave the magical beast behind, or both of you and the magical beast stay behind. Looked like this old man had his eyes on her Shiju. Yi Qing Luo's slender brows creased slightly, feeling helpless that she had fallen into this secret room and was thrown by the old man, causing her internal injury to relapse, and now she couldn't even teleport. Otherwise, she could still make use of this skill to escape from this place. Since she couldn't escape, she couldn't possibly leave Shiju behind and leave alone. It was because Shiju's mother believed in her ability that she passed her precious son to her, to let him grow up together with her. She absolutely could not let down Shiju's mother's trust. More importantly, she, Yi Qing Luo, didn't have the habit of using her companion to exchange for her own life. Seeing Yi Qing Luo not moving, the old man's sinister eyes flashed past a sly sneer. That withered skinny fingers turned into a claw once again as his feet moved. His speed was so fast that Yiqing Luo couldn't catch him at all. She only felt a gust of murderous cold wind blowing towards her. Something flashed in front of Yiqing Luo and the target was still Shi Ju. Her breathing tightened as her right hand suddenly raised up and a feather fan opened up, sweeping a gust of strong wind. Ding! A crisp sound was heard as the old man's 5 claws crashed directly onto the feather fan. That strong force made Yiqing Luo's arm feel numb and pain. The feather fan in her hand fell onto the ground. Her uninjured hand had already lost all feeling as it lay stiffly by her side. However, Yiqing Luo's expression didn't show any signs of fear. Her face was as pale as before, but her gaze was like a torch, filled with unyielding determination. It is my companion, not a pill-refining ingredient. Shi Ju gave a low growl as its huge beast head rubbed against Yiqing Luo's face. Its head was the size of half of Yiqing Luo's body. This rubbing made Yiqing Luo wrapped up tightly by Shi Ju, not revealing any part of her. It turned its head and bared its sharp fangs at the old man. Its scarlet eyes expressed its fury. One human and one beast, mutually protecting each other. He knew that he was no match for the old man, but he still placed him at the apex of his heart. Yiqing Luo's gaze was like a torch as she stared at the old man. Using Shi Ju's huge body as a cover, her fingers had already touched the profound phoenix ring. The long-robed old man's strike was blocked by Yiqing Luo and he was obviously astonished. When he heard her sonorous and forceful words, the old man's expression was not as cold as before. You know that magical beasts are ingredients for alchemy? The monster cores, flesh, and bones of magical beasts are all good materials for alchemy. The higher the level of the magical beast, the higher the success rate of alchemy. Also, the medicinal effects of the refined pills will be stronger than ordinary pills. Yiqing Luo pursed her lips as she honestly answered the old man's question. The fact that he could talk to her nicely and didn't try to kill her at the slightest disagreement meant that there was still a possibility of peace. The old man narrowed his malicious eyes as he slowly walked towards Yiqing Luo. Every step he took, Yiqing Luo's heart tightened. Her fingers had already touched the edge of the profound phoenix ring as she took out the pain-relieving pills which Baiming Lu Lu had given her. The old man stopped in front of her. How did you know? Ordinary alchemists would usually follow the rules and follow the pill secret manuals as well as the pill list which they had comprehended themselves to refine pills. But in refining pills, other than the alchemist's own skills, the second most important thing was spiritual qi. Chapter 366. I've read about it in a medicinal pill book. Yiqing Luo had indeed read about it in the 100 Pills Refining Book, which was about using magical beasts as medicinal ingredients to refine medicinal pills. She intentionally avoided the name of the 100 Pills Refining Book. After all, this was old man Tsang's private collection, and from his treasured look, she knew that this book was absolutely extraordinary. As the saying goes, don't reveal your wealth. Facing such a temperamental strange old man, Yiqing Luo naturally couldn't reveal all her background. The old man propped his chin thoughtfully as he looked down at the young lady who was leaning on the mirage beast's back. Her face was extremely pale, but there wasn't a single shred of cowering expression on her face. His cold lips suddenly laughed out. The things on the table in the pill refining room, were you the one who tidied it up? Yiqing Luo replied with an N as her heart was filled with suspicions. Could it be that this old man wanted to kill her because she had touched his things? Seeing Yiqing Luo admit to it, the old man grinned as he took a step forward and kicked something. Lowering his head to take a look, it was an open feather fan. Earlier it was this feather fan which had caught the eagle claw which he had struck out. The old man bent over with interest as he prepared to pick up the feather fan. That skinny finger was just about to touch that feather fan when a dazzling light flashed past. His finger was struck by an electric current and his entire palm felt numb. This feather fan was resisting him. The old man's sinister eyes narrowed slightly as he sized up Yiqing Luo without blinking, feeling that it was getting more and more interesting. Interested in refining pills? Yiqing Luo didn't understand the meaning of the old man's question. Her sharp eyes blinked as she met the old man's sinister and treacherous face. Her slender brows creased slightly. What are you trying to say? The old man straightened his back as he kicked that feather fan but didn't reply Yiqing Luo's question. He touched his sleeves but didn't seem to touch anything as the expression on his face contorted and became slightly infuriated. He flicked his sleeves as he strode towards the secret room's stone wall. That stone wall which Shiju's 2 claws couldn't lift earlier had an entrance split open. The old man swiftly walked out of the entrance and after a while, he carried 2 books and threw them towards Yiqing Luo's face. Yiqing Luo couldn't avoid it as Shiju howled, and when the books flew over, it opened its mouth and held it tightly. You have 2 hours to memorize everything on this. If you can't, I'll fulfill the sincere feelings of a man and a beast and throw the 2 of you into the medicine cauldron to refine medicine. Throwing this sentence, the old man flicked his sleeves and went back. The moment the stone wall disappeared and the stone wall immediately. The stone wall fell into a dead silence once again. Other than her and Shiju's breathing, there was no other sound. Yi Shi. And he even memorized all the things on it? Could it be that this old man has an intermittent relapse disease? Lass, don't you want to raise your own level of alchemy? Old man Tsang sensed that Yiqing Luo was holding on to a book on alchemy and was in a daze, so he immediately opened his mouth. Lass, don't you want to raise your own pill refining stage? Old man Tsang sensed that Yiqing Luo was in a daze as he opened his mouth. At this stage, other than memorizing the contents of these 2 books, there was no other way. This was the only choice she could make. Yiqing Luo endured the pain as she shifted her body and rested her head on Shiju's back. The book then stood up against Shiju's thick claws. This book recorded all kinds of medicinal herbs. The shape, characteristics as well as the growing location and environment were written clearly. Chapter 367. This was a book for beginners in alchemy. Although Yiqing Luo had the 100-pill refining manual in her hands, but in the 100-pill refining manual, it recorded various precious pill refining methods. However, there was no detailed description of the medicinal herbs and their effects. Yiqing Luo was able to step into the medicine master stage under such a dazed situation. Other than Old Man Tsang and Cauldron Dragon's guidance, it was because of her strong comprehension ability which gave her an advantage. At this point, the minute Yiqing Luo saw the entry-level medicinal pill book, she was immediately engrossed in it. He couldn't even feel the pain in his body anymore. If an ordinary person were to read these books, they would find it difficult. There were too many medicinal herbs that only had a slight difference in appearance, but their medicinal effects were completely different. There were also too many herbs that he had never heard of, and their effects and uses were extremely unfamiliar. A long time ago, Yiqing Luo had developed a unique memory method. Thousands of medicinal herbs which were hard to differentiate seemed to have been copied by Yiqing Luo's eyes, as they were all imprinted in her mind. In less than 1 hour, Yiqing Luo had memorized that book. Shijue considerately bit another book and placed it beside his leg. Maintaining the same posture, after regaining her senses from the sea of books, Yiqing Luo felt waves of numbness in her 4 limbs, which was extremely uncomfortable. She moved, trying to change her position so she could continue reading. But when she moved, her body twitched uncontrollably a few times. An intense pain spread from all 4 of his limbs. Roar, roar! Seeing this, Shiju let out a low roar, and its pitch-black beast eyes were filled with worry. Yiqing Luo's lips twitched as she shook her head. She moved her fingers and took out the painkiller again. Baiming Lulu had repeatedly warned him that this kind of medicinal pill could only be taken once at most. If it was taken too closely, not only would it lose the effect of the painkiller, but it would also cause side effects. Yiqing Luo originally didn't intend to take the second pill, but after seeing this strange old man, if she didn't even have the energy to escape, it would bode ill rather than well. Damn that Yiqing Jian. By the time her body recovered, she would let Yiqing Qian suffer an even more devastating pain. Yiqing Luo was about to stuff the medicine into her mouth when suddenly a slight burst of energy struck towards her face. Yiqing Luo wanted to hide, but her body couldn't keep up with her brain's reaction. That force directly hit the back of her hand. The painkiller in his hand bounced on the ground, rolling and rolling. He rolled in front of a pair of boots. He lifted his leg and stepped on the painkiller. Yiqing Luo's slender brows creased slightly as she followed the direction of his legs and looked upwards. "Senior, what about the agreed 2 hours? You actually dared to take this kind of inferior and harmful elixir? If you want to shorten your lifespan, I can fulfill your wish right now." The old man glanced at her coldly and walked towards her. The painkiller under his feet was crushed to pieces. Inferior quality? If Baiming Lulu heard these words, perhaps she would fly into a rage. However, the old man was right about one thing. Although this kind of pain-relieving pill could relieve the body's pain for a certain period of time, it was not enough. But such a pill was too harmful to the body. Especially if one took too many, it was very likely that they would become addicted to this type of pill. If he didn't eat it for a day, the pain would be unbearable. Injured? The old man narrowed his sinister eyes as he slowly bent down and directly grabbed Yiqing Luo's arm. Not knowing if the old man did it on purpose, this claw just happened to grab Yiqing Luo's injured arm. Chapter 368. The old man frowned, and after smelling the blood stench from Yiqing Luo's body, his expression instantly turned gloomy. He hated trouble, but the young lady who barged into his secret room kept on creating trouble for him. He wanted to settle this trouble directly with one palm, but on seeing the young lady, who was obviously immobile, but in order to protect her own war pet, she stood out bravely, he suddenly felt a little reluctant. Especially when he thought of the medicinal herbs which he had made into a ball on the pill refining table, but had been sorted according to the medicinal effects, he felt even more reluctant. Moreover, this young lady actually knew how to use the magical beast's skin and bones as medicinal herbs to refine medicinal pills, to gather the spiritual qi of the pill refining, to make the medicinal effect of the pill even stronger. The old man was a pill refining maniac. This young lady was kind-hearted and calm when faced with problems. Even when facing his murderous intent, she was still able to remain calm in the face of danger. She even knew quite a bit about medicinal herbs, so the old man was filled with admiration. The old man's inner heart was struggling, as he kept on scratching his head in frustration. Yiqing Luo narrowed her eyes and didn't feel any murderous intent from the old man, so she mustered up her courage and said, "I suffered some internal injuries, and now I can't concentrate because of the pain. I've just finished reading a book, and want to take some painkillers to concentrate on finishing the second book." Her words had just ended when Yiqing Luo's wrist was already locked by the old man. The speed was so fast that Yiqing Luo totally couldn't react in time. The old man's 2 fingers were placed on her pulse. The strength was extremely strong, and Yiqing Luo totally couldn't move at all. "TSK, you really know how to torture yourself." The old man flung her hand away and shook his head in disdain. A profound cultivator in the mystic profound realm, her body is filled with earth profound qi, her internal organs are not shattered, she's really lucky. Just 1 pulse, and the old man accurately and speechlessly described Yiqing Luo's body's condition. Young lady's willpower is not bad. If it was anyone else, they would have fainted from this kind of pain. The old man seemed to be in deep thoughts as his lips twitched, revealing a smile. It was just that this smile, when paired with his cold and ruthless face, seemed exceptionally strange. The old man released Yiqing Luo's wrist and stood up. "From tomorrow onwards, report to the pill refining room every day and help me clean the place." Yiqing Luo went into a blank as her eyes blinked. What the hell was this situation? Did the old man not intend to take her life? You have the foundation to differentiate the herbs. Why are you so stupid? Seeing Yiqing Luo's blank look, the old man's tone became anxious again. Little Luo quickly agreed to him. Old man Tsang was anxious for Yiqing Luo in the Azure Dew bracelet. This elder-level alchemist is going to teach you the ability to refine pills. Yiqing Luo remained silent for a long time. This strange old man was mysterious and unpredictable. Yiqing Luo didn't know what was his motive for making her stay behind. Don't be too happy too early. If you don't meet my requirements, I will still chase you out of here. The old man snorted coldly as he took out a jade bottle from his sleeve and threw it onto Yiqing Luo. The jade bottle was made of ordinary porcelain, and there was a faint fragrance of fresh medicine coming from the bottle cap. What painkiller pills? Pills that hurt the body? You're not allowed to casually take them in the future. The old man frowned, his thin face wrinkled. Following that, a few more books were thrown at Lin Fan's face. After that, the old man flicked his sleeves and left the secret chamber. This time round, that opened entrance didn't close up. This old man, he was really temperamental. Just a moment ago he wanted to kill her, but the next moment he treated her as one of his own? Chapter 369. Yiqing Luo didn't hesitate and popped a pill into her mouth. She didn't doubt if the strange old man's pill could cure her internal injury. If the strange old man wanted her life, it was just a snap of his fingers. There was no need to spend so much effort. The pill melted in her mouth like a warm spring water, flowing down her throat and slowly seeping into her body. That ball of warmth wrapped around her heart. The pain in her body gradually subsided. Lass, if you want to raise your alchemy level as soon as possible, you do need someone to lead you. Although this alchemist has a strange temper, but if you can get his guidance, you will soon be able to advance to a Grandmaster alchemist. Old man Tsang was really envious of Lass Luo's luck. Coincidentally, he had bumped into a medicine ancestor-level alchemist and even caught the eye of the other party. With Lass Luo's aptitude, breaking through to the Grandmaster level was just around the corner. Yiqing Luo slowly opened her eyes after she had swallowed all the pill's effects. Her originally heavy and painful body became much more relaxed. She could also do some simple movements of raising her hand and getting up. Yiqing Luo placed the jade bottle into the profound phoenix ring. It was indeed a pill refined by an alchemist of Grandmaster. If she took one a day, her body would definitely recover in less than 3 days. Yiqing Luo recalled the strange old man's skinny face, and her lips couldn't help but curl up. Although the strange old man's temper was a bit strange, but his character was similar to old man Guiyu. If she stayed by his side and learned some knowledge about alchemy, it would only be beneficial to her and no harm at all. Moreover, Ziling's leg was still waiting for her to treat. Moreover, she still needed to help old man Tsang reconstruct his body. Yiqing Luo's eyes flashed a trace of determination as she borrowed Shiju's strength to stand up. She stretched out her limbs. Although her body was still a little uncomfortable, it was no longer that kind of heart-wrenching pain from before. Keeping Shiju back into the pet space, Yiqing Luo left the secret room. After walking out of the secret room, she returned to the alchemy room. Before she fell into the secret room, the herbs and equipment that she had tidied up were messed up again. The 2 tables were in a terrible mess, and that strange old man was not in the medicine refining room. Just as he was about to tidy up the things on the table again, he heard a soft thud coming from outside the tightly shut door. Yiqing Luo's movements froze. Someone came to the second floor of the library? The minute she recalled the plan that the 2 middle-aged men were discussing, Yiqing Luo's heart started to hang in suspense. "Lower your voice." A low shout came from outside the door. When she heard this voice, Yiqing Luo's grave expression immediately relaxed. It was Qiao Jin's voice. Listening to the footsteps outside, there were about 4 people. Yiqing Luo opened the pill refining room's door and walked out, just in time to see Xiao Jin standing in the middle of the long corridor, directing the other three to clean up the library pavilion. Hearing footsteps behind him, Xiao Jin sharply turned his head. On seeing that it was Yi Qing Luo, his face revealed a joyous expression. "Student Yi, where have you been?" When the other three heard the noise, they immediately put down what they were doing and jogged over. After they found out that Yi Qing Luo was punished to the second story of the library pavilion, they immediately rushed over to the second story. Although she was punished to the library pavilion, it was justifiable for her to avoid training. But with Yi Qing Luo's current condition, she probably couldn't even do simple cleaning. Because of this, Xiao Jin brought along 3 students to the second story to help. Chapter 370. Xiao Jin was burning with anxiety, worried that Yi Qing Luo had fainted in some corner because of her body's condition. As he asked Yan Xiao Yi and the rest to clean the library pavilion, he sent out a signal for Devil Classes students to search around the academy. Following that, he searched every corner of the second story. On the second story of the library pavilion, under the situation where they were tidying and searching at the same time, Yi Qing Luo finally appeared after they had tidied up halfway. "Rest here." Yi Qing Luo pointed to the door behind her. Xiao Jin and the others' agitated faces instantly froze. All of them opened their mouths wide in astonishment as they rubbed their eyes and looked towards the wooden signboard on the door of that room. On the door of the room, there was a wooden sign with the words, "Medicine Refinement Room." You actually entered this room?" Xiao Jin pointed at the pill refining room as his expression changed. "How long have you been resting in that room for? Didn't meet anyone?" From their expressions, Yi Qing Luo could roughly guess. Earlier, that strange old man should be an influential figure in this academy. Even Xiao Jin was terror-stricken. "I met a strange old man." Yi Qing Luo told them the truth. The 4 of them exchanged glances as their eyes were filled with astonishment. "Met Ghost Doctor? Then how did you walked out in one piece?" The few of them were filled with questions. Their devil class had been in the academy for so many years, and they had never been afraid of anyone. Only this temperamental ghost doctor was simply hard to fathom. "Our academy's ghost doctor is the academy's #1 alchemist, and he has already reached the stage of alchemy ancestor. In the entire Nirvana realm, there are probably less than 5 alchemy ancestor alchemists." When Bei Ming Lu mentioned about pill refining and ghost doctor, her eyes were filled with obvious admiration and worship. Ghost Doctor? So that strange old man was called Ghost Doctor. Ghost Doctor's temper is too explosive, and in the entire academy, other than Master Gui Yu, no one else can tolerate his character. So the academy specially set up an independent pill refining room for him on the second story of the library pavilion. The traffic on the second story of the library pavilion was lesser, and if it wasn't for the Academy's special assignment, students from High Profound class or Class of Gods wouldn't be able to find the time to read the books on the second story. To these students, instead of reading these armchair strategizing books, it was better to spend more time cultivating Xian Qi and work hard to improve their Xian level. The Ghost Doctor's temper is really abnormally bad. No one is allowed to take a single step into his medicine refining room. Previously, I heard that Elder Yun Xiang had received the dean's orders to come to the medicine refining room to look for him, but was directly chased out by the Ghost Doctor. At this point, Baiming Lu's face also collapsed. The Ghost Doctor never accepts disciples. There were students who wanted to learn alchemy, thinking that they could use their sincerity to move the Ghost Doctor. In the end, they were also kicked out. Looking at Bei Ming Lu's expression, Yi Qing Luo couldn't help but laugh. "Among them, includes you, right?" "Of course. The Ghost Doctor is my motivation to move forward, my goal." Baiming Lu slightly raised her head. Her clear and beautiful eyes were tinged with a trace of unswerving determination. It was an incomparably resolute gaze for the sake of one's dream, for the sake of one's goal. Yiqing Luo's charming eyes rose, the corners of her long and narrow eyes outlined an extremely shallow arc. Heaven will not mistreat a hard-working child. Bei Ming Lu rubbed her nose. Her beautiful eyes blinked as she stared at the wooden signboard behind Yiqing Luo, which had the words, Pill Refining Room. Chapter 371. Yiqing Luo remained silent for a moment. He asked me to report to the pill refining room every day, to help him clean up. Xiao Jin. Bei Ming Lu's eyes widened as she hugged her head. Tong Ziqing's little face was icy cold, but her eyes were filled with astonishment. Yan Xiao Yi's watery eyes blinked as she dug her ears, turning her head stiffly towards the three of them. Am I hearing things? The three of them nodded their heads in unison. It was absolutely a hallucination. Who was Ghost Doctor? He had such an explosive temper, and had always been a loner. Even if the director personally came to invite him to guide the students in refining medicine, he would be kicked out directly. Yiqing Luo barged into the pill refining room and actually stayed behind. And she could report to the pill refining room every day? Clean up? Bei Ming Lu covered her face as she cried out, Qing Luo, let's exchange. I'm willing to clean up for Ghost Doctor every day. I'm willing. Are you sure after the exchange, Ghost Doctor won't kick you out? Yan Xiao Yi added a cold stab. Bei Ming Lu's cries became even more mournful as the gaze she gave Yiqing Luo was filled with envy and jealousy. The crowd recalled that when Yiqing Luo first entered the academy, she was also inexplicably attracted by Guiyu, and had been chasing after her, clamoring to take her in as his disciple. This young lady. Could it be that she had a special physique specially attracted to these crouching tigers, hidden dragons, eccentric people? She was taken in by Guiyu, and now she entered Ghost Doctor's eyes. No wonder when Yiqing Luo left the freshman training grounds, her face was still pale, as though her internal injury had worsened. But now, when she came out from Ghost Doctor's pill refining room, her expression was obviously not that ugly, and she looked much more energetic. Looked like Ghost Doctor should have stepped in to treat Yiqing Luo's internal injury. With Ghost Doctor taking action, they naturally need not worry. Under everyone's jealous and envious gazes, Yiqing Luo stayed in the reading room, reading the books Ghost Doctor had left for her, whereas the other four accepted their fate and cleaned the library pavilion's cleanliness. Although the punishment was to avoid training, but if this library pavilion wasn't cleaned properly, Yiqing Qian's side would probably start gossiping again. This kind of busyness continued till 3 in the afternoon, when the four of them finally tidied up the entire second story's books. Yiqing Luo had also finished reading the 2 medicinal pills books. To prevent others from discovering them, Xiao Jin and the others tidied up the second floor and led the other 3 away. Before he left, he didn't forget to whisper, "Go to the class committee room later, the class monitor is waiting for you there." Long Yunzhan? Was he finally willing to return Mu Qiqi to her? She also wanted to find Long Yunzhan and ask him about the meaning of the riddle he played with Qiqi that day. Holding the punishment slip and handing it over to the administrator still couldn't believe that Yiqing Luo would be able to clean up such a huge library pavilion in such a short time. He specially went upstairs to check once to ascertain that the second story was indeed clean and tidy before he signed Yiqing Luo's punishment slip. Yiqing Luo went straight to the devil class, and it was already time for training. The students lined up one by one and were jogging. Yiqing Luo walked directly towards the class committee room, and along the way, it was completely silent. When she pushed open the door, there was only Long Yunzhan seated inside. "Where's Qiqi?" Yiqing Luo looked around but didn't see Qiqi. Long Yunzhan's azure blue eyes gazed deeply at Yiqing Luo as he lightly patted his sleeves. A palm-sized meatball rolled out from his sleeve. Chapter 372. These few days, in order to investigate my matter, Qiqi had expended quite a bit of energy and now it's in a deep sleep state. Long Yunzhan's clear voice was extremely light. It doesn't want me to tell you, but as its owner, there are some things that you should know. Yiqing Luo stared at that tiny ball. It was so tiny, and in her hands, it was so light that she couldn't feel any weight at all. She carefully sent Chi-Chi into the pet space. Chi-Chi, who had a life contract with her, could only receive the best self-care in the pet space. Raising her eyes again, Yiqing Luo's expression was calm without any ripples. What's going on? Until now, I'm not too sure what's going on, and I can't believe everything that I know. But everything is real. Long Yunzhan slowly shut his eyes, and when he opened them again, that pair of azure blue eyes had already been covered with a layer of gray. His look inexplicably made one's heart ache for him. That pair of azure blue eyes revealed an expression as though he was an abandoned child, unable to find a place to return to. Even though she had many questions in her heart, Yiqing Luo didn't speak out immediately. She quietly waited for Long Yunzhan to bring it up. But this wait took an entire incense worth of time. Long Yunzhan's thick eyelashes trembled slightly, making that azure blue eyes look like ripples. After some time, he finally fixed his focus on Yiqing Luo's direction. You. His thin lips moved slightly, as though he wanted to say something. But his gaze stared at Yiqing Luo's face for some time before he immediately lowered his eyelids. Training has started, go and train. Yiqing Luo's lips twitched. Long Yunzhan was obviously looking for her because he had something to tell her. But when the words reached the tip of his tongue, he didn't say it out. Regarding the secret between Chi-Chi and him, regarding why Chi-Chi was so exhausted that it fell into a deep sleep state, regarding. There were too many things which Long Yunzhan had yet to explain. Even if he was teasing her, it shouldn't be like this, right? Yiqing Luo abruptly stood up as both her hands propped on the table. Long Yunzhan, you are attracted by Chi-Chi's sacred beast presence, and can understand beast language. Tell me honestly, are you? She wasn't able to finish her question. Long Yunzhan had already stood up, opened the door and walked out. Apparently, he didn't want to answer any of Yiqing Luo's questions. This Long Yunzhan was really weird. Could it be that he called her to the class committee room just to return Mu Chi-Chi to her? His heart was full of questions, but he had to keep them bottled up in his heart. The feeling of not being able to swallow or spit them out was suffocating. Yiqing Luo was unable to take part in Devil Class's training. After she came out of the class committee room, she went to Baiming Lulu's pharmacy to rest. It was until nighttime when Yiqing Luo left the Devil Class. When he returned to the dormitory, the others were not there. It was rare that DMO Xian was not waiting for her in the dormitory. Yiqing Luo simply didn't waste any more time. Lying on the bed, she extracted her spiritual sense and entered the Azure Dew bracelet. Inside the Azure Dew bracelet, Old Man Tsang would be able to manifest his spiritual body and help her heal her injuries. This time, although the Azure Dew bracelet protected Yiqing Luo's internal organs, but this body really couldn't withstand the pressure of the Earth Profound stage. If she didn't recuperate properly, even if her internal injuries were healed, her body quality would deteriorate. Last Luo, remember to swallow the medicinal pills that Ghost Doctor gave you daily. Come back to the Azure Dew bracelet at night and I will help you heal. I guarantee that by tomorrow or the day after, you will be alive and kicking. Old Man Tsang looked at the lass in front of him, who had her eyes closed as she circulated her qi to heal her injuries. Towards Yiqing Luo being taken in by another sex alchemist, it would be a lie if Old Man Tsang said that he wasn't resigned. Chapter 373. A spiritual body, an artifact spirit which might disappear anytime. How could it be compared to the living Ghost Doctor who had blood and flesh? Ghost Doctor was able to keep Yiqing Luo, so Old Man Tsang's heart indeed gave birth to some reluctance. But from the bottom of his heart, he felt happy and proud for her. Not good. Lass Luo, quickly withdraw your spiritual consciousness. While he was recuperating, Old man Tsang suddenly sensed something, and the palm which was on Yi Qing Luo's back, which was infusing spiritual qi, suddenly retracted. Almost at the same time, Yi Qing Luo, who was lying on the bed, opened her eyes. Right in front of her was a sharp blade glint, directly chopping down towards her head. Damn it! Why did someone want to assassinate her again? Yi Qing Luo couldn't help but roared in her heart as her body had already swiftly reacted. She had just turned sideways when she heard a ding sound. That blade had chopped onto the bed. Yi Qing Luo only felt the entire bed swaying. She flipped herself up and swiftly retreated. She then saw that in her room there were two burly and muscular men. Their entire bodies were wrapped up in black cloth, only revealing a pair of murderous eyes. And the window was already wide open, blowing in a gentle cold wind. The two killers had not expected Yi Qing Luo to suddenly wake up. On seeing that their assassination had failed, two palm winds suddenly struck towards Yi Qing Luo. Profound qi. Yi Qing Luo's eyes flashed, as her squinted eyes were suffused with a sliver of chilliness. These two killers actually dared to use profound qi in Heavenly Academy. Weren't they afraid that the profound qi detection equipment around the academy would sense them? Seeing Yi Qing Luo evading, the two burly men revealed a vicious look. Profound qi broke out of their bodies, raised their long blades and charged forward. Every single blade, every single attack, was aimed at Yi Qing Luo's vital point. They were totally ruthless, trying to take away Yi Qing Luo's life. Damn it! Who had she offended today? Yi Qing Luo panted heavily, acutely sensing that these two killers were absolutely not Heavenly Academy students, nor were they playing a prank. Judging from their combat prowess, they were definitely experienced killers who often committed murder, arson, and seduction. Although Yi Qing Luo had suffered internal injuries, but her body's instinctive reaction was still there. With a few flashes, she quickly dodged the assassin's attack. With a cold expression, she flipped her fingers, and a feather fan appeared in her hand. If these people were really professional killers, he could use his profound qi, but she couldn't. Moreover, she, who was suffering from internal injuries, could not summon the strength to release her profound energy. Right now, the only thing she could do was to stall the two of them until the academy sensed that there was an abnormal fluctuation of profound qi in her dormitory and brought people over. Surrender obediently. Do you still want to wait for that kid who's protecting you in the dark to save you? The burly man laughed coldly in a hoarse voice. I'm afraid he's already dead. I'll fulfill your wish today. I'll let you two be a pair of wild mandarin ducks. As he spoke, the burly man's long saber slashed down. Protecting the kid in the dark? When a phone was discovered by them? Yi Qing Luo knitted her brows tightly as she expressed some doubts towards the strong man's words. Although she had not seen Wind displaying his full strength, but Wind was able to stay by Dmo Xian's side and become one of his 5 great guardians, which was enough to prove his ability. In the Heavenly Academy, there was probably no one who was Wind's opponent. Otherwise Dmo Xian would not specially let Wind hide in the dark to protect Yi Qing Luo. Yi Qing Luo's eyes narrowed. She couldn't be bothered to talk nonsense with these killers. Her feet moved lightly and the feather fan in her hand drew a flirtatious arc in the dark night sky. She couldn't use her profound qi. However, her own footwork and her teleportation's secret technique were not weak at all. Chapter 374. After exchanging blows, these two killers became more and more serious. They didn't expect that a freshman would have such keen senses and reactions. It was as if he was born to fight. She didn't unleash any profound qi. She only used that red feather fan in her hand to attack them like a dagger. Every move, every style, was direct and decisive, without any hesitation. While avoiding their vital points, she was able to swiftly counterattack. This indeed made those killers who had belittled Yi Qing Luo to look at her in a different light. Yi Qing Luo was extremely glad that she had taken Ghost Doctor's medicinal pills, and in the Azure Dew bracelet, Old man Tsang had injected his spiritual qi into her to nourish her body, so that now her injuries weren't so painful that she wanted to die. The more serious the two killers became, the more vicious they became. Yiqing Luo's room had already been overturned by the powerful profound qi, as it was scattered messily on the ground. The entire wooden board of the bed was smashed onto the ground with a pitter-patter. Such a huge commotion, how could the surrounding students not discover it? Such a powerful profound qi fluctuation, how could the academy not detect it? But she had been exchanging blows with these two killers for at least a quarter of an hour, and not even a shadow was seen. Yiqing Luo squinted her eyes, as her vision looked towards that opened window. A thought arose in her mind, and Yiqing Luo's feet moved, as she speedily scurried up the window. Her figure was petite, and with a slight bend, she had already flashed out of the dormitory. Following closely behind were the two killers, as they dashed towards the window at the same time. For the two of them with strong physiques, it would take some time for one of them to climb through that window, moreover the two of them were pouncing up at the same time. Instantly they were stuck on the window, unable to move. Seeing Yiqing Luo scurrying out of the window, her agile body scuttling nimbly along the roadside, their hearts got more anxious, as their struggles became even more ferocious. Outside Yiqing Luo's window was the female dormitory's rear floor. Usually there would be at least 3 to 5 people walking around, but at this moment, as far as the eye could see, there wasn't a single figure in sight. As expected, her dormitory was set up with an enchantment. Just like every time Dmo Xian returned to her room, he would set up an enchantment beforehand. Once one was within the enchantment, one would be completely cut off from the outside world. No matter what they did in the enchantment, such as releasing profound qi, the outside world would not be able to sense it. This also meant that these two assassins had long planned to assassinate her. No response from the heavens and earth? Yiqing Luo narrowed her eyes as she swept a glance at the two killers who were still stuck at the window, gave a cold laugh and retracted her vision. The most important thing now was to find the person who set up the barrier and break it. Yiqing Luo's charming eyes scanned the surroundings sharply. The range of this barrier should be the room she lived in. In other words, it was very likely that the person who released the barrier was hiding nearby. From all directions, another two figures suddenly appeared, brandishing the long swords in their hands as they dashed towards Yiqing Luo's direction. That momentum and speed were extremely fast. Compared to the two assassins from before, they paled in comparison. The two assassins came at him menacingly, their long sabers slashing down with unerring accuracy. Yiqing Luo squinted her eyes and quickly retreated a few steps back. Soon after, the feather fan in her hand opened and closed, leaving behind dazzling afterimages. It seemed like a flashy move, but every strike and every opening and closing were aimed at the assassin's vitals. Chapter 375. Who on earth sent these killers over? When she saw the two killers trying to assassinate her, Yiqing Luo thought that her actions in the academy had made some students unhappy, so she spent some money to hire these killers. Just like Shangguan Liuli previously. But she jumped out of the window and was sealed in the array barrier. There were two more powerful killers lying in ambush outside, and she didn't know how many more people were hidden in the surroundings. This kind of behavior was absolutely not what a student would do. But Yiqing Luo suddenly recalled the conversation that she had heard in the library pavilion in the morning. Could it be they had sent people over? She was punished by the instructors to clean up the second story of the library pavilion, and this matter would definitely spread like wildfire. To be able to freely enter and exit the Heavenly Academy, those two people were absolutely the higher management figures in the academy. Naturally, the news of her being in the library pavilion's second story would also spread to their ears. The secret that those people were talking about was obviously a huge plan. Because of this, no matter if Yiqing Luo had heard that conversation or not, as long as she appeared in the library pavilion's second story at that time, she would die. If it was really the killers sent by those two people. Yiqing Luo didn't dare to think any further. Bam! The ground cracked open as pieces of gravel flew in all directions. Once again, the two assassins missed. The two assassins who had been stuck on the window finally got over and immediately followed up. Enemies, 4 professional killers. On their side, a frail willow lady who had yet to recover from her internal injury and was unable to circulate her profound qi. This comparison, to be able to turn the tables, that would really be seeing a ghost. Not far from the female dormitory, on top of a tall building, a man dressed in a purple robe stood with his hands behind his back. His purple robe fluttered, as though he had the bearing of a deity. Just by standing there, his entire body gave off an extremely majestic pressure. That pair of narrow peach blossom eyes were pitch black as it stared at Yiqing Luo's dormitory without blinking. Amidst the flowing light was a bundle of expression which couldn't be seen through. A black figure swiftly flashed and in a blink of an eye knelt down in front of the man. "Overlord, I'm useless and didn't manage to protect Miss Yi properly." Ah Feng lowered his head expressionlessly. If those people hadn't used the tactic of luring the tiger away from the mountain and tricked him into leaving first, they wouldn't have had the opportunity to set up the barrier. In Dmo Xian's pitch-black pupils, sometimes a storm was blowing, sometimes it was as if it was dyed with ink, so calm that it made one flustered. Ah Feng couldn't bear the pressure and bent down a little more. "Di Zun, I'm going to break the barrier." With that, the young man immediately stood up, straightened his back, gripped his sword tightly, and turned to leave. "There's no need." Dmo Xian replied indifferently, unable to tell whether he was happy or angry. His vision congealed in the direction of Yiqing Luo's dormitory. Under his sleeves, his slender fingers clenched into a fist. He was suppressing his urge to raise the Heavenly Academy to the ground. He wanted to rush into the barrier and hold his woman in his arms so that she would not take any more risk. But, after a long time, Dmo Xian retracted his gaze. "It's coming." Ah Feng stopped in his tracks and turned around stiffly. Who was it referring to? Ah Feng followed Dmo Xian's gaze, and when his vision fell onto a figure, his usually expressionless mouth turned into an O shape. "Overlord, this." Dmo Xian muttered to himself for a moment and seemed to have thought of something as his eyes were covered with a layer of faint warmth, which made the lines of his entire face become much gentler. Chapter 376. The 4 killers' attacks were extremely ferocious. As though they didn't want to give Yiqing Luo any chance to complicate matters, this time round, the 4 of them attacked in unison. The long saber swept out streaks of sharp and dazzling brilliance. The strong airflow lifted up everything on the ground as it danced in midair. Those streaks of strong qi made Yiqing Luo feel as though her body was floating, as though she was about to be swept up by this gale. There was no way he could hide from it. Yiqing Luo had tried to circulate the profound qi in her profound jade heart several times, but after taking the medicinal pill that Ghost Doctor gave her, her profound jade heart had been nourished by the medicinal effects, forming a nurturing mode. Forcefully circulating it would only cause a backlash from her profound jade heart. Now, what should she do? The 4 killers were already impatient, as bursts of profound qi broke out from their bodies. That long saber formed an overbearing array, trapping Yiqing Luo within it. Yiqing Luo's expression sunk slightly, as her footwork stabilized, as she speedily took in a deep breath. Her feet moved like the wind, as that set of strange footwork changed rapidly. In a blink of an eye, the little girl in the array had disappeared without a trace. "I don't believe that you, this lass, can resist." "To what extent?" A glint shot out from the killer's eyes. The few of them became even more serious. Yiqing Luo's speed and acuity had exceeded their expectations. She obviously didn't utilize any profound qi, but she was able to see through their attacks in a blink of an eye and make the clearest evasive or counterattack. This kind of lass, if she was properly nurtured in future, she would definitely become a fearsome figure. But alas! This lass had offended someone whom she shouldn't have offended. The future strong exponent was going to die under their sabers today. No matter how fast her speed was, so what? She was ultimately a young lass who couldn't utilize her profound chi. Her stamina would eventually be depleted. Lass, if you listen to us obediently, we can still let you die a quick death. The killer condensed profound chi, as he followed the tip of the saber, as he slashed downwards. Yi Qing Luo spat as she did a somersault in midair, as she raised her leg and gave a horizontal kick. That killer who raised his saber had originally released his profound jade heart, circulating his profound chi, but before his saber could slash downwards, his chest suddenly felt an intense pain. His profound chi was in a mess, as the long saber left his hand. He was sent flying backward. The other three killers totally didn't see when Yi Qing Luo made her move. At this moment, a sense of vigilance surged in his heart. After Yi Qing Luo sent that killer flying, she didn't stop. Her calculations were extremely accurate. When that assassin was circulating his profound chi would definitely be in a mess after being kicked by her. The assassin would not be able to get up in a short period of time. There were three left. Yi Qing Luo narrowed her eyes as she gripped the feather fan in her hands tightly. While the three of them were still in a daze, she flipped the feather fan on her fingertips, like a bewitching red light darted out. When those three killers saw that one of them was destroyed, they were already on guard against Yi Qing Luo. The minute Yi Qing Luo moved, the three of them speedily followed suit. They were all experienced assassins and had done a lot of such shady business. He quickly adjusted his state. Their common goal was to block Yi Qing Luo's speed and take her down in one fell swoop. The trio's eyes were vicious, and under their coordination, they trapped Yi Qing Luo completely. One of them locked onto Yi Qing Luo's movements, one attacked her vital points, and the last person surrounded Yi Qing Luo's movements. Yi Qing Luo's slender brows creased slightly. They were indeed trained professional killers. They had thought of a way to restrain her so quickly. Chapter 377. What the? This move was just too sinister. Yi Qing Luo's eyes were pierced so much that she shut her eyes. But the minute she shut her eyes, Yi Qing Luo's heart cried out in alarm. Indeed, at the same time when she shut her eyes, the surrounding profound chi became even more violent as it shot out an intense murderous intent. Yi Qing Luo's heart turned cold as she wanted to open her eyes, but that ray shot directly towards her, and it was simply too glaring. She could only wave the feather fan in her hand and rely on her sensitive ears and perceptive power to avoid the incoming long knife. Suddenly, a miserable shriek was heard beside her ear. Following that, a burst of powerful energy which could destroy the heaven and earth instantly eroded the entire enchantment barrier. Who was it this time? Yi Qing Luo's heart trembled as she endured the piercing pain in her eyes and opened her eyes. When she saw the scene in front of her, Yi Qing Luo was completely stunned. A long dragon was spiraling in front of her eyes. That's right. It was a dragon. It was so huge that one could only land on it after it coiled up into several circles. And right now she was spiraling in the middle of this dragon. The blue dragon's scales were like iron armor as it gave off a clear glow. Having lived for 2 lifetimes, what kind of storm had Yi Qing Luo not seen before? But the current Yi Qing Luo was stunned. A dragon, a living dragon, was right in front of her eyes. That huge dragon head fiercely knocked onto those few killers. It was apparently the first time for those killers to see a living creature like a dragon as they were sent flying by that dragon head. Only, the dragon's strength was obviously different from Yi Qing Luo's. Yi Qing Luo's kick sent them flying would at most cause them to faint for a period of time. But this dragon's collision sent those killers flying one by one as they crashed heavily onto the wall and instantly turned into a meat patty. Their internal organs had all seeped out and completely turned into a pile of minced meat. After that blue dragon finished dealing with the remaining 3 killers, it raised its head and let out a dragon's roar. That dragon roar caused the pitch-black sky to suddenly explode, accompanied by a huge roar of thunder and lightning. Bolts of lightning seemed to split open a hole in the horizon. And that blue dragon which was originally spiraling around Yi Qing Luo speedily dashed into the clouds. The dragon's body flipped as it howled. Within a radius of thousands of miles from the Heavenly Academy, all the magical beasts and mirage beasts responded to the dragon's roar. That blue huge dragon circled several rounds in the sky, and its huge dragon head stared straight at Yi Qing Luo. That pair of azure blue watery eyes made Yi Qing Luo dazzlingly stunned once again. Blue eyes. That gaze. How could Yi Qing Luo not recognize it? The giant blue dragon stared at her for a few seconds. With a flick of its tail, it disappeared in the blink of an eye. The turbulent sky once again returned to its previous tranquility. Let's go take a look. What happened in the girls' dormitory? Following the elder's stern voice, numerous footsteps could be heard. Yi Qing Luo knew that the enchantment had been dispelled. Obviously, the people from the academy had noticed the commotion in the dormitory. That giant blue dragon just now, or it was too eye-catching. Yi Qing Luo didn't even think as she immediately shut her eyes and fell onto the ground. The sound of orderly footsteps rang in his ears, and he could vaguely hear the voices of the students discussing. What was that just now? The sun is so bright, why would there suddenly be thunder and lightning? Didn't you see it? I seem to have heard a dragon's roar. Dragon's roar. Dragon's roar? Is there something wrong with your brain? Dragon, to anyone in the Nirvana realm, was a supreme existence. Even the number 1 strong DMO Xian only had a 9-tailed fox sacred beast. Everyone had heard of legends regarding dragons in books, but had never seen a real dragon, not to mention hearing a dragon's roar? What dragon's roar? Chapter 378. Yun Xiang led a team of guards and rushed over. Only to see the entire female dormitory's backyard. The ground had already cracked. Especially Yi Qing Luo's dormitory, more than half of it was destroyed. There were 3 corpses lying on the ground which had turned into meat patties. At the corner of the other end, there was another corpse which could more or less be seen clearly. Looking at the outfit, it was obviously a killer without a doubt. Yun Xiang's expression congealed as he sternly ordered the guards to carry these corpses away. He was feeling vexed. Usually there weren't so many things happening in the academy. On the contrary, ever since Yun Duan came back, there were so many things which he had no way to settle. If this were to spread to Yun Duan's ears, he would definitely blame him for not knowing how to manage the academy and revoke his position as an elder. That would be terrible. Yun Xiang's heart was burning with anxiety, his sinister eyes sweeping the surroundings. Suddenly he saw Yi Qing Luo lying on the ground, and the hostility in his eyes intensified. It was this new student again. Yun Xiang's eyes widened as he couldn't wait to tear Yi Qing Luo into pieces. Every single time, as long as he was related to this new student, nothing good would come out of it. From the beginning of the class allocation, he was humiliated by the 2 instructors in public. Following that, Lu Shuiyu's matter caused him to lose Yun Duan's trust. Then to the heavenly training forest, according to Yi Qing Qian, that intruder was most likely Yi Qing Luo. And now, everything seemed to be related to Yi Qing Luo. Yun Xiang's eyes shot out a strong murderous intent. Yi Qing Luo, who was pretending to be unconscious, naturally felt this murderous intent as her heart trembled slightly. Her sharp ears heard Yun Xiang's footsteps, and Yi Qing Luo was thinking if she should pretend to be awake. She heard a student saying, "Elder Yun Xiang, the director sent a message to bring student Yi to the director's office for questioning." The footsteps stopped abruptly. The approaching murderous intent gradually subsided. Following that, Yi Qing Luo's collar was lifted and someone took a wooden frame and carried her to the director's office. Director's office. Yi Qing Luo laid quietly on the ground, maintaining the frequency of her breathing. Yun Xiang also followed over with an extremely ugly expression. "Director, this new student is simply a troublemaker." Ever since she came to the academy, things have been happening one after another. For a long time, he did not hear the dean's response. The entire dean's office fell into a strange silence. After saying that, Yun Xiang froze on the spot, not daring to speak again. Then, the sound of the headmaster lightly knocking on the table broke the silence. "How are the freshmen?" This deep and resounding voice was filled with a dignified dignity without being angry. He seemed to be concerned about his new body. But when this voice entered Yi Qing Luo's ears, it made her entire body turn icy cold. This voice wasn't that the bootlicking voice she had heard on the second floor of the library pavilion? She knew it. That voice sounded so familiar. She had definitely heard it before. Momentarily, Yi Qing Luo didn't even think of the director at all. But upon hearing the director's voice, Yi Qing Luo was almost certain that the person who was discussing plans with the self-proclaimed guardian in the library pavilion in the morning was the director. She was also very sure that the reason why these assassins came to find her today was definitely because of this dean. The barrier had just been broken, and even Elder Yun Xiang was present, but he could not see that she was related to this chaos. Whereas the director, who had always been indifferent to the outside world, could actually send a student to summon her to the director's office at the first instance to question her. No wonder. Heavenly Academy, which was hailed as the best academy, had several experienced killers infiltrated in. Chapter 379. She fainted, she won't die. Yun Xiang stared coldly at Yi Qing Luo. Director responded calmly. Yi Qing Luo could feel that director's gaze was fixed on her face. "Sir Director, she's merely a freshman in Devil class. No matter what questions you ask her, she might not be able to answer." Yun Xiang's white brows creased as he mentioned Yi Qing Luo with ridicule. Seeing the director staring at Yi Qing Luo without letting go, Yun Xiang was really afraid that this director of the academy would be captured by Yi Qing Luo. "Sir Director, leave the killer's matter to me. I will definitely get to the bottom of this matter." Yun Xiang patted his chest to show his loyalty. Yi Qing Luo couldn't help but snigger. This matter was done by the director, and if he really got to the bottom of it, Yun Xiang might not have the life to tell the truth. Director's knocking sound stopped and he said, "You can leave first. We must get to the bottom of this matter, and give an explanation to the student." Yun Xiang nodded his head in agreement. He stood up and was about to leave when he turned his head to look at the unconscious Yi Qing Luo, this freshman. Director's eyelids twitched as he lightly swept a glance at Yun Xiang. That question which he had yet to ask was held back. When Yun Xiang's feet stepped out of the director's room, Yi Qing Luo's heart tightened. Staying in the same room as the director, she would definitely be in trouble. With Yun Xiang around, it would be different. After all, Yun Xiang was the academy's elder. Even if the director wanted to silence her, he had to consider Yun Xiang's presence. From the way Yun Xiang ridiculed him earlier, he knew that the headmaster did not treat Yun Xiang as one of his own. He would definitely not reveal his secret plans to the public. Yi Qing Luo slowly opened her eyes as she screamed, "Don't come over! Don't come over!" The sudden scream rang in the silent and spacious director's room. There was even a burst of echo which made it seem extremely strange. Yun Xiang stopped in his tracks as his brows creased tightly as he stared at Yi Qing Luo. He saw the young lady on the wooden frame suddenly sitting up straight as her little face was pale and filled with fear. After she opened her eyes, she saw a foreign environment. That pair of lively eyes were dazed and frightened. "What is this place?" Yi Qing Luo seemed to have calmed down a little as her vision slowly fixed onto the director. The dean was dressed in a greenish-gray robe. He had a black and white beard, and his sideburns were grizzled. He was quite handsome, and his eyebrows were knitted together, exuding a sense of majesty. Principal. Yi Qing Luo immediately stood up from the wooden frame, her face carrying a trace of lingering fear. "Director, the academy has been infiltrated by killers. So many assassins. Impudent." Yun Xiang saw Yiqing Luo pouncing directly towards the director, and her pair of hands even grabbed the director's wrist, as he immediately cried out harshly. He turned around and returned to the director's office as he stretched out his hand to pull Yiqing Luo. You know those are killers? Director shot a cold glance at Yun Xiang and immediately turned his head, looking at Yiqing Luo. He did not show the slightest bit of anger towards her grabbing his arm. Yiqing Luo's eyes widened as she bit her lower lip. They chased after me the moment they came, dressed in black and masked. What else can they be if they aren't killers? I escaped from the dormitory, only to find that there was no one outside. Those killers even chased after me. Director narrowed his eyes. Do you know why the killers chased after you? Yiqing Luo's brows creased as she released the director's arm. I'm upright, and even if I offended anyone, it's not to the extent of specially hiring killers to assassinate me.